Hello, you're listening to Reviewing History, your comedy history podcast. I'm filmmaker and teacher Brian Rupert, joined here by...
As always, Steve Dagliaco.
And Anthony Galati. Hi, guys.
So, I'm assuming because Oppenheimer's coming out, we may have some new listeners, so...
Let's hope so.
So let's kind of just go with a brief synopsis of what the show is.
Sure.
We go through the history of movies, talk about what's real and fake in them, and we have fun and laugh as we do it.
Yeah.
Some would say we crack jokes. Would you say it's a fair assessment?
Sure.
Okay.
You maudlin fuck.
So we saw the last real big blockbuster to come out this summer season, I think.
How do you know it's a blockbuster? We don't know if it did well.
Well, it's kind of a tentpole project for the studio, right?
Is it?
Yeah.
The marketing's certainly intense.
Well, that's what I mean.
They did good with that.
Dwarfed comparatively by the Barbie.
Well, Warner Brothers
Sure.
has a beef with Christopher Nolan, which is why they put Barbie up against Oppenheimer.
Is that so?
Yeah.
I'm going to say that's a lie.
No, that's true.
What's the beef?
Okay.
Where's the beef?
You could
So
say that.
he was there for a long time. That was his studio of choice. When Tenet came out, his last movie.
David?
Yeah, David Tennant, the 10th and 14th Doctor.
Mm.
Yeah. No, but Nolan's last movie, Tenet, came out there. And he got mad that they also put it on streaming, which killed the box office. And he got pissed at Warner Brothers and left. And he went and did Oppenheimer at Universal. When he did this, they were like, oh, yeah, we're going to counter program your next movie with Barbie.
Okay.
And that's why they're going head to head.
Right.
Because usually studios try to stay out of each other's way to get more money. But
Not this time.
This is weird because it kind of worked out for both of them.
This was a joint
became
project.
Yeah, the internet ran with it.
Yeah.
The Barbie.
I don't think it was the internet. I
Barbieheimer.
think it was them. I think they were the ones producing that content to be like,
No, certainly not.
why wouldn't you?
They weren't thinking of it.
Right.
When studios try to
They're
do...
enemies.
They're also not creative.
They're
Right.
not. Okay. Enemies is a strong word. Enemies is a strong word. When you're dealing with that kind of budgeting, you're never really enemies.
They're enemies.
They're not even competing for the same viewers with that one. You know?
It just became a thing where it was like
Right.
these two...
Like, here's this dark, somber, nuclear apocalypse movie.
Yes.
And the happy
And
Barbie.
then Barbie.
Yeah.
It's funny.
It's funny, yeah.
Yeah.
It worked.
Seeing a
It
double feature of both of them is a funny thing to do.
Right.
If you have 6 hours.
Okay.
But me and Steve actually saw the movie twice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lucky you. How lucky for you.
Second time, I liked the movie more.
Really?
First time, I enjoyed the experience more. Does that make sense?
Okay.
What was it like going to a real Hollywood premiere?
It wasn't a premiere.
It was an advanced screening.
It was an advanced screening. We got hooked up through listener and guest and friend of the show, Chris Lodondo. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, awesome
nice.
for doing that for us.
And we got to go see Oppenheimer in 70 millimeter early.
Mhm.
Advanced screening.
And we went to Village Cinema East, me and Steve, and saw it.
Does that mean you have to shill for the movie now?
No. If we didn't like it, we could give a bad review.
Uh-huh.
We were not allowed.
We weren't allowed to talk about
The one thing we were not allowed to do, let's say all three of us went and saw it, we were not
Just to have
allowed.
sex in the theater?
Right.
For some reason, they said we could do anything else, but gay sex was off limits. It was really like Sodom and Gomorrah in there.
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
when you saw...
Minus the sodomy.
Yeah. When you saw
What a rip.
when you saw some of the antics as, there's nuclear bombs going off,
Mhm.
a guy was shooting free throws, it was weird. But we went and saw it, and the one rule we did have was we were not allowed to put on an episode before it got wide release.
Mhm.
Ah.
Yeah.
So we couldn't have recorded this Tuesday and put it out. But
Okay.
the movie's in wide release, so we could do that now.
Yes.
So we saw it in 70 millimeter, and then we all saw it together
Last night.
with some other people we'll talk about at the end of the show.
Mhm.
And we saw it in 35.
Yes.
And did you notice a difference, Steve?
An incredible difference, yeah.
You really did.
It looks so much better in
the
70.
70?
It sounds better. Everything
It's a
was
very
better.
loud movie.
Well, that's
You
Nolan.
think the atomic
Yeah.
bomb would be loud, but even with that expectation, it still struck me as very loud.
It's also Nolan. Like,
That's what he does.
Yeah, like Dunkirk was ridiculously loud.
he loves to pump up the volume where you can't really hear what's happening,
Yeah.
and you just hear dun dun dun, like epic score shit.
Yeah, I had a huge problem with that. I don't like that.
So for better or worse, this is a Nolan movie.
Yes.
And you could tell.
Right.
Nolan,
yeah.
is at the stage of his career where he's like, I refuse to tell a sequential story.
Can you rattle off a couple of his movies?
Well, he
Sure.
did the 3 Batman movies. Batman Begins.
That's what he's
Dark
most
Knight.
famous for.
He
right?
did Insomnia with Al Pacino.
Oh, wow.
Tenet.
Okay.
Tenet.
Right.
Fucking
And
Interstellar.
The Prestige.
The Prestige, which
Right.
I like a lot.
Dunkirk.
Fantastic
Dunkirk,
movie.
Inception.
Inception. That was him. Right?
He's had big stuff.
And I think we named all of them except
Yeah.
Following. So there and Memento.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That was him?
Yeah.
Is that his first one?
Following is his first movie.
Okay.
This is his best work.
I think this is his best movie.
But
I couldn't agree less.
Okay.
well, here's the thing.
This movie was so meh.
You didn't like it. Was it the hype for you?
It wasn't that it's not bad. It's just like it's fine.
Yes,
It's not
agreed.
exciting. It's kind of a bore fest at times.
I think his
How much did
style
you know
hurt it.
beforehand?
What, as far as the history aspect?
Yeah.
I know the Manhattan Project. you
Yeah,
know?
I know what happened. I didn't
Right.
know like
I didn't know his personal stuff.
Me either. I didn't.
I
know
knew
that.
he was investigated, in the
Yeah.
50s and stuff. But it just wasn't very compelling. I
Okay.
once the bomb goes off, I think you can wrap up the movie.
Yeah, you check out after
I-
that.
So the first time I kind of had that feeling, but I found myself I'm more drawn to that last hour afterwards
Well, but I think
because
after,
that's the shit I don't know.
when you get a repeat viewing, you're certainly probably able to follow it better because the movie, as you said, is very disjointed. There's a lot of characters, and you can't keep track of what
Yes.
they're even talking about some of the time because you don't remember everybody's name.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You got
It
these
goes so
people.
fast.
And if you're not hyper familiar with the players involved in the Manhattan Project and all these scientists and things, very difficult movie to follow.
it's like, and I'm sure you guys were like me. You're like, they say the character's name, and you're like Matt Damon,
Right.
Robert Downey
Sure.
Jr.,
Yeah.
Josh Hartnett.
And I know some of
Yeah.
these, like I know who Enrico Fermi is and Heisenberg, these
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Niels Bohr.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But even so, like you put a face to the name and in your head in the moment, I was not keeping up with it. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Okay.
By the end,
Sure. It's got a lot wrong.
and I
a lot
think
wrong
there's a
with it.
political slant to the film, but that's to be expected. I have my own personal biases politically that made me annoyed with certain things.
It was.
We'll
nothing,
get into it as we go.
It
through
was
the film,
nothing
but
that.
it was nothing unforgivable, but it was. It's like,
Look.
it's so predictable, so fucking predictable what they were going to do with this.
Yes.
I didn't know really too much about the story.
Mhm.
So I found it interesting, and then looking in after, I have a different perspective on
Right.
the events portrayed.
And I think there was a lot of geopolitical stuff that I think would have been pertinent to put in the movie, especially after the war. That is really fascinating. That just isn't. It's not portrayed, and if it's referenced in a passing way. Like Oppenheimer is a guy who was so public about his remorse about the bomb and how he wanted it to not proliferate, and
He wants it to end,
yeah, and he kind of wanted to put the atomic genie back in the bottle,
which can never
which
happen.
can never happen in hindsight, but at the time maybe it could have. Well, not to say that in reality it could have, but there was a hope. You had that big meeting. There's a scene. There's actually several scenes where they're sitting around this big table with flowers in the middle.
Yes.
That's a real meeting these guys had.
Yeah.
And that was like the scientific community and what their response to all this was. What they were looking for, and Oppenheimer was very public about this, is what he was hoping for was humanity would be forced by this new technology to evolve, to become better than it was, almost in like a Star Trek sense. That is not explored in the film, and I think it's integral to his character as a human being.
To where he develops.
Yeah.
Well, the film also wants to strike that somber tone at the end.
It's so just fixated on this McCarthy shit, which
Was a mistake.
we'll get into it.
Well, they
It's
use
like,
that as the framing device.
right.
It was a mistake. That was their major flaw in the movie. You did not need any of that.
Well,
See, I like that.
I like that it's there, but I think it's
Unnecessary.
less important than they make it.
Yeah.
Than the movie makes it.
Oh.
Well, apparently, from what I've
And
read,
I also think, personally, I think it's justified.
Yeah, me too. He shouldn't have had security clearance.
Yeah.
well, here's the thing. So I guess let's like kind of, we're not, for those that regularly listen to the show, usually we go through the movie beat by beat, but we're watching a new movie. We didn't write down and take like copious notes on the plot. And it's kind of a winding plot anyway. So we'll kind of break it down our own way. So Oppenheimer is a physicist. And
You don't say.
well, I'm just giving background. And the movie starts with him poisoning his teacher.
Yeah, so I'd never heard any of that before.
Okay, I looked into it.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of this movie is based on a book, which the name of the book is called American Prometheus.
Mhm.
And that's
that explains a lot of the symbolism, doesn't it?
yeah. So that story is in this book, and supposedly it was only really told by one person.
Mhm.
It's kind of hard to corroborate, but we do know he got in trouble after school, Oppenheimer, and his rich parents kind of had to bail him out.
For attempting to murder his teacher?
We don't know.
Right. Well, in the film.
In the film, yeah. His
That-
rich parents bailed him out, and he had a mental breakdown.
Yeah. So
That is in the movie.
yes.
That sounds about accurate for physics students.
He grew up, he was born in 1904, and he grew up like with a silver spoon in his mouth.
He's rich.
He's one of those type of guys. His father was an importer exporter.
Oh, I know a guy who does that.
Really?
Yeah, his name's Art Vanderlei.
Really?
Yeah.
What does he import?
What does he import?
Chips, right?
Stamps, right? Fuck, I'm mad at it.
He's a textile importer-exporter. The
Oppenheimer.
father, yeah. And his mother was like an artist. These are rich people doing rich people stuff in the turn of the century America. When he developed a love of physics, it was very apparent that in the United States there just wasn't the people or facilities that could
infrastructure.
properly, run a physics.
This is someone
thing.
with talent
Right.
that needs nurtured.
Right. And the only place you could go is Europe.
Yes.
So first he goes to England, and then that's where the movie kind of starts.
Movie starts with him in Cambridge.
Yeah. And quickly goes to Germany after that.
Yes, and we see him in Denmark, and he meets some scientists.
He does like a intellectual tour of different scientists doing lectures.
Yeah, and he meets like a who's who of like
The heavy
20th
hitters.
century physicists.
Right. And
Niels Bohr,
these are the people that are changing the world.
Heisenberg.
Right.
Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all these people, Einstein comes along in the 20s and 30s and rewrites the book on the universe, essentially.
Mhm.
And all of these young guys beneath him will build upon his genius, kind of stand on the shoulder of giants.
Well, that's how technology works, right? Like
Right.
and science.
Yeah. And the movie does a very good job of explaining and portraying
Yes.
that.
And they have like a couple of lines where like someone says Einstein's the most brilliant scientific mind of our time, and he goes,
He says of his
no,
time.
of his time.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it progresses,
Mhm.
So Oppenheimer, he starts really quantum physics becoming a thing
Right.
in America.
He wants to. He
Well,
wants to bring quantum physics to America and be the leading scientist researching that, at least theories.
Well, he starts it at like Cal Berkeley, right?
Yeah, and they have this good scene where he smashes the beakers and stuff,
Yes.
and that's to symbolize that he's very bad at like lab work. He's a
Yeah.
theory
Yeah.
guy.
He's not good at math.
Yeah, he's not a mathematician.
No.
There are better people, but what he is good at is
Theory
coming
and
up
ideas.
with how this
He can
functions.
understand it.
I can't explain it. You
No.
know?
Only Steve can. Steve, explain all of quantum physics now. Go.
What's the fabric of the universe, Steve?
What's a black hole? And I don't mean in your search history.
What do you want to know? String theory? Do you want to know my black hole theory? Do you want to know quantum,
You got excited about
quantum
black
radiation? I have.
It's
theory.
one of the-
I
it's
actually
one of
have
the-
a theory on black holes that is slowly spreading.
Is that something you want to explain right now?
Sure.
Do you feel comfortable?
Yeah. Yeah.
This
of
may
course.
be how you
Finally,
win your Nobel
Steve gets
Prize.
to show off.
Yeah. Show off your science Steve. Wait, get him. Do you have your lab coat? So, like black holes and not in your search history.
Steve,
Explain it.
What is your theory on black holes?
All right. So
As an amateur scientist,
I was taking galactic science, and one of the things that we were studying were temperatures. So if something is a hot temperature, this is the light that you're going to get. So you could actually just look at a star based
when you
on
say
light.
You mean like anything
anything
with excessive heat gives off light? Is that what you're saying?
It different, like if light passes through a specific chemical based on like the heat and composition, you'll get a different color. So if you pass through hydrogen, it'll be a different color. Through
I see.
nitrogen.
So the
it'll be a
spectrum
different
is
color.
affected by the chemical.
Right, and then with the heat, with black holes, if in the movie that's like light can't escape.
Yeah,
so
it
that's
gets
why you get
sucked
the
in.
black hole. But one thing that I found interesting that came up was absolute zero temperature.
Mhm.
So absolute
Which is
zero
very
means
cold.
it's the coldest temperature anything could be in the natural world or natural universe, excuse me, where atoms cease movement. They don't move anymore. So no matter
So something
what,
is so cold that atoms freeze.
they cease to move. So as
Does that
they're
include
moving,
electrons?
everything? Yeah.
Okay.
So it does not exist anywhere in the known universe. We can't even replicate
Not even
it
space.
on Earth. So we tried replicating it. We get really close, like 0.0000001% close, like really close, but we never hit absolute zero.
The atom still has
Right.
some temperature to
So
it.
I reached out to NASA and I said, hey, I think it actually exists in the center of a black hole. But the thing is, we can't see past the event horizon. But the math.
What is the event horizon?
It's when light
That's
can't
that
escape.
movie with Sam Neill.
Right.
where they go in
with the spaceship. Yeah.
And then they're in hell.
Light can't escape.
Spaceship goes to hell.
Yeah.
So light can't escape, so you can't see into the center
Of a black hole.
Yeah, because
Because
event
light
horizon
itself
can't escape, so you can't
gets sucked
You don't
in.
know what it looks like,
And we as human beings do not actually see anything. We see light reflecting off of things.
off like the event horizon,
Right.
basically. Yeah,
So with
all
the
the stuff getting
absence of
sucked in.
light, it is impossible to see.
right. But
What's there?
But it's so dense, like it's a dying star where it gets so dense and compact that gravity falls into it.
Uh-huh.
I think the gravity, because it's really hot around that area.
Around the
event
edges
horizon
of a
'cause
black
everything's
hole?
going really fast around it, so it's going in.
Like a
And
toilet.
all that pressure, when you think of pressure, it gets hot.
No,
right?
like, yeah, right. Like
Yeah.
you got the water whipping around.
Kind
and
of,
down.
yeah.
I just love like
Yeah.
he's having this level of conversation, and you go like a toilet.
Well, when you grasp your hand together at like pressure, it gets hot in the center. You can feel it. Like that's what it is.
All right, so I squeeze my fist.
It gets hot.
It's
right?
hot
That's
in the
pressure.
center because of the pressure of.
So
me
when I
squeezing my
told them I
fist.
think absolute zero exists in the center of a black hole, they go, it's not. It's going to be really hot because of the pressure. It's
Because of
really
the
pressurized.
now a black hole is sucking in energy,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
or
it's taking
things,
energy. Yeah,
and
Like
Well,
this
there's
conversation.
so much
on the
gravity.
show.
Yeah, so much gravity.
so
Yeah.
you would assume that all of that energy needs to build up in the center of the black hole. Why would that not heat up? Why would that be cold in your?
Well, that's so. Absolute zero is atoms not moving. I think they have the theory is somewhat incorrect of it being cold. I think it's just it requires a lot of pressure to stop the movement of an atom. Think of ping pong balls.
Okay.
If I take a bucket of ping pong balls and I shake them around,
Mm-hmm.
they scatter all over the place.
Right.
But let's say I take them and I put them in a funnel and they start going down. Well, eventually they get to that funnel and they cease movement because there's so much pressure. So
Is it because of so much pressure? There's no more room.
there's no more room to move.
So it's so small in the center of the black hole that the atom
That the
cannot
atom can't move and it's collapsed within it. I think that's the only place it could exist naturally.
That's an interesting idea.
And it's
I actually
spreading.
understand what you're saying.
It's spreading to some other people, apparently.
From you?
I'm not the only one who thinks this. I think I was the first one to bring it up. I brought it up in my college and I asked my professor, I'm like, is this possible? He's like, it is, but we'll never know because we can't see inside, but you would have to do the math for it. And the math is really hard.
Wow.
It's theoretical physics. It's hard math. I'm good at math.
Now,
but
how
like,
can we
I'm
use-
really bad at like advanced calculus. It's so hard.
How can we use that to like make a bomb?
Well, you reverse
Right
it.
now, someone is hearing this and they just go, that's it.
You reverse it.
How mad
You
would you
reverse
be
engineer.
if we collectively won the Nobel Prize based on your theory? So like all three of us get it. Me and Ant, who did nothing.
You get $1 million for it. I think it might be more now.
So if we each got $1 million,
I would be. I'd kind of be upset.
knowing we did nothing. I barely spoke.
You said you were
said like a toilet.
like a toilet. And the picture's you with the Nobel Prize with a fist,
The quote under me, like a toilet.
like a toilet. Yeah. So I going into this movie, I actually knew a little bit more about the Manhattan Project and what they were doing and the theories behind it and stuff like that.
Right.
You know, because I was interested in it. I still am.
Sure.
You know, I look up, you know, if it made any progress and stuff like that. So
Okay.
All right.
It's
So-
very
what else you
fascinating.
want to know?
No, so let's kind of get back to the movie. So
Okay.
they mentioned this towards the end of the movie, not the beginning. Well, actually, I'm kind of skipping. They mentioned that Heisenberg has successfully split
the
an
atom,
atom,
Yeah.
Yes.
right? And that's a big deal.
Well, because he is in Germany,
Yes.
and then the
That's where real physics.
so as far as the war is concerned, right?
Well, World War I hasn't broken out yet, correct?
World War II.
Two. Sorry, yeah, two.
Oh, the atom was split before the war.
That's what I'm
Yes,
saying.
Yeah,
So at this point, it's split.
yeah. And that kind of sets off the same idea in the smartest minds in the scientific community around the world. People say, okay, well, if they can do that and it releases X amount of energy, you can weaponize.
I'm pretty sure
you can
that
turn it into a bomb.
that really accelerated Einstein's theory, and
Right.
it cemented his theory as
fact.
This is fact,
Right.
Yeah.
But as far as the war goes, you have these German scientists who are at the forefront of all this.
Mhm.
As we said before, Oppenheimer had gone to Germany and to educate himself, and afterward, I think we kind of brushed through it. But what he had done is decide that America needs to get into the physics game,
Yes.
not just as
Had to,
a
a war thing.
not as a war, because it's before the war.
Academics.
He wanted to. He knew that if he went back to America, he'd be the guy. He'd be the
Okay,
American
that makes
scientist. So he ended up in Berkeley, and this is all in
And
the movie.
Caltech.
Yeah.
And kind of transforms the science department there into a world-class physics department.
Yes.
He gained a lot of followers. These students.
He's the guy.
Right, that would follow him around and emulate him and
Yeah.
learn from him, and they'd bounce ideas off each other, and essentially farming geniuses.
He's their science hero.
Their
Yeah.
goal,
Like a Stephen Hawking.
their
Right.
goal went from you're going to teach this to we're going to publish papers, which was when you publish something, you
Mhm.
are considered in the community
Right.
like an expert in your field.
Right, and
Until
other
you
peop-
get something
Other
published,
people are
you're
reading it and
nobody.
working off what you say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot to get published. It's not like you just write something and then it works. It's like it has to go through a lot of channels,
Yeah.
And so what really happens, kind of what kickstarts the main thing in the movie, which they mentioned briefly towards the end, is the Einstein Sizzler letter. I'm probably
Okay. Yeah. So the Germans, obviously the Nazis have come to power.
Yeah.
It's
1939.
Yeah, and these scientists realize the potential of the atomic bomb early on. They're already thinking about it.
Yup.
And they know that if the Nazis get their hands on an atomic weapon, they will use it.
Right away.
And you got these two scientists in Hungary. I forget their names. I think you just said it. Actually.
Well, it's Einstein and Sizzler
Well,
who write the letter to FDR.
So they get Einstein on board. These two guys were screaming, America needs to start working on this for the safety of the human race.
It's Leo Sizzler who
right.
writes it with Einstein.
And they go to Einstein and get him on board with it.
Yeah.
And once he lends his name to it, now the president will listen to
Yes.
it. So Roosevelt will begin the early stages of what would eventually become the Manhattan Project.
Yes.
It should also be said that, and this is not in the movie, the British are also in this game as well.
They have one scene kind of towards
Mhm.
like in the middle of the Manhattan Project where they have like some British liaisons there,
Right.
but they never really are like, yeah, everybody's trying to do this.
Once
Mhm.
Pearl Harbor happens and America enters the war, the British they have this thing called the Maud Committee, which are their nuclear scientists trying to do the same thing. They will hand all of their information over to the United States and jumpstart everything they had worked on. Now the Americans have it.
They give us their knowledge.
Yeah, which pushes forward, the essentially it's a race and the Americans are losing that race.
Well, they say it in the movie. They're
Yeah.
like, we're 18 months behind them.
Right. And the British will do their part to push us
Yes.
back into, being even
Getting to where we
capable
need
of
to be.
winning
Yeah.
the race. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Oppenheimer will pick up the ball from there.
So in the movie, they show some of his personal life and they show his connections to communism and
Right,
communist
everywhere.
shit. So like his brothers are communists, his
Yep.
brother's wife, he's banging one.
All of his associates are card-carrying communist members.
And this is academia.
yeah,
you know,
it's
in the
Berkeley
19
academia. It's no different from today.
I was going to make a joke. You beat me to it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he's obviously has some communistic leanings. He's giving money to the Republican forces of the Spanish Civil War,
Yes.
which I definitely don't like. As far like this movie really showed me a side of his personal character that I don't like. Like he's an adulterer.
Mhm.
He's
Yes.
a homewrecker. He abandons his child.
Yep. Happily.
And he's giving money to communist forces in
He's
Spain.
the exact opposite of Leo Strauss,
Yeah.
who is actually the good guy, which I want to talk about later.
Yeah.
Yeah, Oppenheimer is
He's
like
kind of an asshole.
he's
Yeah.
not a good guy.
No.
He's a genius.
Yes. But his character is definitely flawed.
The guy playing him, Cillian Murphy,
Yeah.
looks just like
Who's
him.
a great
Oh
job.
yeah,
And his
fantastic.
performance is
Amazing
incredible.
Yeah, fantastic. That's the one thing I will say about this movie. Every performance here is like top
Out of
notch.
sight. Yeah.
Well, because even for the smallest roles, they're like, who's
let's
the
get
best
let's get a
actor?
monster
Yeah.
actor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
I didn't even recognize Downey Jr. for like the first couple
Really?
of scenes he's
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
I was
You
like,
have to
wait a
really,
minute.
like,
Yeah.
look at him.
Yeah. Oh, and I love that the Addams Family kid is now a big time actor.
Adam's fan.
Yeah, the one
Yeah.
from Addams Family Value, Wednesday's Jewish boyfriend.
Oh, yeah.
He's been in a lot of stuff. He was in Harold and Kumar. Go to White Castle.
That's right. He
Yeah.
was. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. He was great in this, and like
I don't know his name.
The
yeah,
actor?
just
Yeah.
bring it, why don't you bring that up, Brent?
Yeah. Pull that up, Jamie.
Pull it up,
Hold on. I know the guy you're talking about
Mhm.
too. He played.
He was also in the Santa Claus, I believe. Was he? Is this the same person?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was the elf.
That's
in the
right.
Santa
He was
Claus.
Bernard.
Bernard, yeah.
That was right around
He's
the
the
same time as
cool
Addams
older
Family.
elf.
He's an elf with attitude.
Do you know what happens when my mom uses fabric softener?
Die.
I die.
But while you look that up, we'll back to the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, like in the movie, they're portraying
David
two-
Krumholtz, I believe.
Krumholtz. That's a
Crumholtz.
wild
Yeah.
last name.
That sounds delicious. Let's get some Crumholtz in here.
Yeah, bring him in.
Now I'm
Like
starving.
crumb cakes. you know?
Yeah.
They have these two trials going on, hearings, and one they tell him straight out, it's like, yeah, we're reviewing your top secret clearance, and then there's another trial kind of or hearing where he's what was he up for? He was going into the cabinet of like the
Yeah.
the
He was going to be
All
part of Eisenhower's cabinet.
Eisenhower
So-
cabinet. Yeah,
You want to talk about Straws
Go
real
for
quick?
it.
yeah, we
All right.
have to.
You're
'cause
on
he's-
point, Brain.
I think
All right.
Strauss is such an important role in the movie,
All
but
right.
realistically,
So real
Could have been
quick,
taken out.
this movie is like two movies combined, in my opinion.
and happening at the same time.
Well,
Yes.
not just that. I'm talking. He took the building up of a man and the destruction of him from Lawrence of Arabia,
sure.
and he combined it with Amadeus, where Robert Downey Jr. is Salieri,
Salieri. That's a good comparison.
and Oppenheimer is obviously Mozart.
And the movie
genius.
itself kept reminding me of JFK throughout the whole thing.
Okay,
Sure,
yeah, I
yeah.
can see that.
You know.
They name check him at the end.
They do,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, how could you have, this type of film without bringing the Jesus Christ of boomer liberalism into it? Holy
He has
shit.
a point. He has a point.
But-
yeah.
So Leo Strauss, unlike Oppenheimer, was born to a poor immigrant Jewish family, right?
Yes.
And he's born in the South, and in World War I, he had one bad eye his whole life from a rock fight. So I wrote down some stuff about him. Hold on. He served in World War I. He served in World War II. He's a self-made man. He made a fortune doing banking, advising. He served with Hoover for years.
So you know what? Let's make him the enemy in this.
He gave tons of money in humanitarian aid.
Mhm.
Great man. Just
He
But now he's become the face of the
evil.
deep state.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah. he's like
Why?
he's like all about American assimilation, which is why he's like, even though my name is Strauss,
Yeah.
I want it to be Strauss.
Yeah.
The American pronunciation. Like
That makes him a bad guy.
he didn't like
well, he didn't like communists,
Right.
and
He
this
hate-
movie
he-
loves
he
communists.
hated communists. He didn't like that they're both Jewish. He didn't like that Oppenheimer kind of like almost abandoned his Jewish identity,
Mhm.
that Oppenheimer was a philanderer, like that he was not a moralistic good
Yeah.
guy. He didn't like that Oppenheimer was a communist.
He recognized that this is a man of ill character.
Yes.
Yes.
His brain was required for the project, but no more.
Yes.
And
As far as that guy's concerned.
as far as he's concerned, and I think as far as any rational person, Any rational person would be like, we can't have this guy.
I'm not even going to go that far. I will give him the benefit of the doubt, but I will say this. Any rational person would say this person should be looked at and investigated.
Yeah.
Whether and once you've made that investigation, you determine, is he a good guy, is he a bad guy? Sure. And I think the right move was made by the government, believe it or not.
I agree.
Yeah,
you know?
I think we all agree.
It worked out.
Yeah. Right.
Unfortunately, due to how they were running the operation, obviously there's leaks and shit, which we'll talk about at the end.
Yeah, there's obviously spies.
Which was his fault.
You know?
That was his fault.
And hold on, we'll talk about that in a second. But Strauss, he brought Kodachrome to market, the camera shit.
Oh, yeah?
The film. Like, he brought that to market. He made money.
Made a great Simon and Garfunkel song.
Yes. He actually, at one point, was climbing up. He was going to be the head of Navy intelligence for World War II, and they wouldn't let him do it because he was a Jew.
Oh.
But and that's another thing that bothered him, is that he fought and clawed for, like, prominence as a Jew in America, like as a self-made man. Like, he taught himself physics. He abandoned going to college to get involved with World War I and World War II.
I mean, that's the American immigrant story, right? It's like all these underclass immigrant groups will fight a war for the Americans, and then now they are Americans.
Yeah.
Like the Irish in the Civil War, the Italians in World War II,
Oppenheimer,
so on and so forth.
Oppenheimer never does any of that. He's born to a rich family.
Right.
You know, so
and
they
leans
already
towards anti-American stuff.
And it's two people who are just never
on the same wavelength.
They're just two different people. They never would
come
get
from
along.
Very different places.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Eventually, you know, he becomes a rear admiral in World War II. He's boys with Herbert Hoover throughout the life of his administration.
Which you know, maybe there is some questionable shit.
But he's a hardcore Republican.
Yeah.
Who Hoover said Strauss is one of the best guys he ever met his whole life and one of the most loyal dudes. So Truman actually had a Democrat had Strauss serve on the AEC.
Right.
And this hearing that is happening to Strauss in the movie from Eisenhower is a big turning point in American politics that's about to happen.
Right. So that's another thing I wanted to talk about. Like that whole era post World War II. First of all, you have 3 years, I believe it's 3 years, where the only power on Earth with an atomic bomb is the United States. And that will transform the American government in countless ways. This is when things like the CIA are created.
Yep.
And the Air Force is created. The president now has the power to blow up the world. And that will transform the entire office. Now, the American president...
You're the most powerful man in the world.
Who has ever existed.
Yeah.
The government will expand insanely in this time. And it's never decreased since, you know. All of these changes require growing, you know, pains. And that will be the McCarthy era. You know, these people are terrified. They just gone through the most destructive war in human history, and now they've got this atomic question. What do we do with it? Should we do anything with it? And how do we stop our now enemy superpower on the other side of the world from getting what we have, because now we're going to blow up the fucking planet and kill everyone.
Which they were already working on in close.
Right. Sting hadn't come out with the song yet. They didn't know.
Right. Do the Russians love their children? We don't know.
Yeah. They may hate that. I've heard they keep, in Soviet Russia, we keep kids in cage and poke with stick.
Nobody asked that question until Sting.
There's a guy named Bertrand Russell.
Okay.
He is
that sounds like the most fake name ever.
It's a real name.
Bertrand Russell.
He's a guy, he's born in the 1870s.
Okay.
He's an old man by this period in time. He's a devout pacifist. He is
nobody likes those.
He was arrested in he's British. He was arrested in World War I for being a pacifist and not getting involved in the war. He will come out and say, and keep in mind, this is towards the end of his life, that the best course of action for the human race right now, in this brief moment when America has a monopoly on atomic weapons, is for the United States to invade the Soviet Union and genocide the entire country, kill everyone.
What a good pacifist.
And he did a lot of soul searching and coming to this conclusion. He's like, there's going to be a nuclear war
at some point.
The world is going to be destroyed. So it's better that we just end the competition now
Well, you have guys
and
like
save the Western world.
you have guys like Patton,
You know?
who right after World War II were like,
Go in.
let's go right into
Yeah,
Russia.
Patton will come out and say we've been fighting for the wrong side. We should have been fighting the Soviets the whole time.
Which is why he was assassinated.
And that's why he was murdered.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're all on the same page.
In my opinion.
No, this is fact. Let's be honest here.
So
there's
real
plenty of people that are making what now in hindsight is an insane idea.
Yes.
And
you know?
Real
which is
quick, real
another
quick.
issue with the movie, though.
Well, I want to finish the Strauss thing.
Well, this has to do with
Yeah.
Strauss. That's
Okay.
why you could bridge it. And Strauss in the movie is like saying exactly what you're saying and exactly what Pat was saying. Is like, hey, our allies, quote unquote, are actually our enemies. But they portray it in the movie as when he says it, that's like an evil thing to say. You know what I mean?
They want the spirit
It's
of cooperation, like from Oppenheimer, to kind of like, hey, we should be working together with.
Well, that's the flip
Soviets.
side of what we just said.
Right.
You know,
It's
the
dishonest.
the other thing you could do, theoretically,
Which is kind of what Oppenheimer is pushing for in the
which
movie.
is what he's 100% pushing for in real life, is share everything.
Yeah.
The cat's out of the bag. Let's put everybody on the same page, and then we can move forward. from
Everybody
there.
has nukes. Everybody can end the world.
Right.
It's over.
It's détente, right?
Yeah.
Which is another reasonable, path forward.
And honestly, if you think about it, like
But what that requires is to eternally walk the tightrope of nuclear destruction. We are
Yes.
still to this day walking that tightrope. We don't
As we
think
speak,
about it
yeah.
anymore.
Well, we went a-
we
No,
as
went
we
a long time not thinking
Yes.
about it.
basically
Right.
most of our lives.
Yes,
Yeah.
but the sword of Damocles hangs over the human race with this
Sure.
this thing.
At a moment's notice, one crazy person
Could
ends
end the world.
And what's so crazy about that is in this film, it's atom bombs and hydrogen bombs they're talking about. They're
Right.
not talking about like
Thermonuclear
thermonuclear
weapons.
Well, they
weapons
end
that
up
could-
mentioning it towards the end.
Yeah.
briefly, but as a theory, like, oh, somebody's going to make something bigger or something like that. But the weapons now are so catastrophically brutal that like some of them you can't even test. They're like, it'll just destroy the world.
There's no
Like-
doubt about it that once the Trinity test happens, we've entered a new age of human existence.
The atomic age.
We have this thing, the long peace, right?
Yeah.
Which is this period we've lived in since
Still in it.
since the end of World War II.
Yep.
And what that means for anybody who doesn't know is no great powers have fought each other.
Yeah.
In
It
that
is
time.
relatively like, there's been little wars like Vietnam and stuff.
They're so
but
small.
Right.
There's
But
in
the great
the
powers.
grand scheme of humanity, this has been the most peaceful time in
Right.
the history of the
when
planet.
I say great powers, I mean the top 5
Yes.
economies on Earth have not gone into combat with each other.
Yep.
This has never happened in human history.
Besides proxy wars.
Well, but it's not direct.
It's
You
not
know,
direct
It's still
invade-
the long piece.
No big country is invading another big country.
To lose that long piece now means human annihilation, right?
Sure.
There's
On a
that-
massive scale.
There's that famous
Yeah.
quote. I don't know what kind of weapons the Third World War will be fought with, but the Fourth World War will be fought with sticks and
I
stones.
think that's Einstein.
It might be, yeah. We still live with this every day.
we got to get Sting to come back and do another song. Maybe people forgot.
And another point I want to make. I think it's very good and lucky for the human race that the atomic bomb came out when it did, because obviously we had a generation that had been through the 2 world wars, which are the most destructive things that have ever happened. Tons of death everywhere. The generation that had bombs put in their hands understood violence, understood death, understand what war was. And I think
As we get further from that,
they didn't use the weapons. You know,
Mhm.
say what you will about all of these people. They were smart enough to not blow up the world. And as we move further and further away from that generation, we lose. And in peacetime, long peacetime,
There's a Japanese listener to him.
Right.
Fuck this guy.
Well, that's another point.
I want to talk about that in a second too.
As we move further away from that, I think the danger of the use of these weapons increases because the people in charge don't have the
Don't remember
same
it, yeah.
understanding of what death and violence truly is.
Sure.
As for that, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, I think you had to do it. I think you had to do it because humanity needed to see the power.
You're on the
Because-
side of the generals in the room.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it's no.
and I'm
they say
talking
it.
about
They
this
say
from
it.
perspective outside of World War II.
Oppenheimer says it.
If we look at it very quickly, World War II, the fanatical enemy, the Japanese are going to fight to the last man. The math of it, the math and logic, if you take away any emotion from it, the math adds up to
You're saving
the right
lives.
thing to do
Oh, yeah,
is to
of course.
blow up these cities because it saves lives.
200,000 deaths are way better than 2 million.
Right, because what's the alternative? The alternative is the United States invades the home islands of Japan.
Yeah.
It's going to cost at least 1 million American dead
Mhm.
and tens of millions of Japanese
And
dead.
civilians and
Right.
like horrible shit's
Right.
gonna happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Here, 2 bombs, 2 cities destroyed, tens of thousands are dead, but that's the end of it. We can move on.
You showed them
and
the
that's the
stick.
math. Emotionally, you can look at it and say, these are 2 of the most catastrophic, horrific events in human history. We
What
can
was
see the mass death, the cancer, the long-term
Yep.
problems of all of that. Yeah, all that's true. But in, give and take with that. What I wanted to say before was that there needed to be a demonstration to the human race. They need to understand
Well,
what
they
this
needed to
is.
see. Everybody needed to see. And in fact, so Oppenheimer, again, good guy Oppenheimer, the movie would have you believe, is totally cool with Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right?
Yeah, well, I mean,
Hold on. Strauss, evil Strauss, says there's this cedar grove over here in Japan with a bunch of cedar trees. Let's do it there. It'll blow up all these fucking trees. It'll be desolate, but they'll understand.
I don't think they would. I don't think that would be good.
But hold on. I agree with actually Oppenheimer,
Uh-huh.
but again, the movie would have you believe Strauss is this fucking
he's a
evil
villain.
guy.
Right.
It's like, he's like, we could drop it on some trees.
Mhm.
Another thing with him, he invented or helped, come up with the nuclear detection thing if the Russians launch one.
Okay.
So to detect their atmosphere,
Radiation.
he's
Yeah.
how we found out they had one.
Would that be a Geiger counter?
It's in the atmosphere.
Yeah, like a big one.
Yeah, basically so when the Russians were testing it, that's how we found out they had them, from this thing that Strauss invented.
Yeah.
And then the hearing that is happening to Strauss in the movie, right, is a bullshit position within the government, Secretary of Commerce,
Mhm.
as a token thing, right? So what happens is Eisenhower offered him Secretary of State, all these different positions. And basically Strauss was like, I really don't want to do any of that shit. And he was like, how about commerce? It's a bullshit position.
Mhm.
He's like, you'll definitely get it. No one cares. No one, this isn't going to be anything. His personality was abrasive. He was ardently anti-communist, all this shit. He rubbed people the wrong way
Right.
throughout his life. And you had
And
people.
had
Robert
enemies.
Downey Jr. will shatter his character for all eternity.
Yes. He will always be known as the evil scumbag
Right.
now.
Which that
But-
was one of the main fucking problems I had with this.
But hold on. So what actually happened in real life, the Democrats used this to gain momentum going into the midterm elections,
Mhm.
and they shellacked
Yeah.
the Republicans.
Okay.
And they took the House. It was the biggest landslide in Democrat history. And they had 60 seats to 34.
Wow.
And it kind of set, basically, after this, Eisenhower's presidency was over.
Kaput.
He couldn't do anything.
Right.
This is the end of it right here.
Mhm.
And obviously we know, after Eisenhower is Kennedy.
Right.
So this kind of sets the stage for the next 10 years of American politics.
Sure. Yeah.
Definitely.
That's a good point. But just back to what I was saying about, the demonstration of the weapon.
Yeah.
Look at 1914.
Mhm.
You had all of these powers that could have sat down in a room, hammered out an agreement, and not gone to war. in
Like some sort of
1914.
league. Imagine if all the nations had a league that they could get to
Maybe.
and just work things
But
out.
just imagine,
Or imagine if they were united.
a European Union, you mean? Yeah, but if all these people could get into a room and reasonably scream at each other and figure out a way to not go to war, could have easily happened. But I think part of what led to that war was there hadn't been one since, not a big one anyway, since Napoleon.
And they
have a bunch of
advancements in
new weapons
Yup.
that nobody's used, and they're all itching to try out. I'm serious.
No, it's so
Machine
funny.
guns, gas, airplanes, not tanks yet. That'll come
the
later.
early tanks,
Yeah.
No, it's true.
That's why the bomb had to go off. Because if nobody really understood what it was, some general is like, I want to see what it does.
Yeah.
You know?
And they might have dropped it on a real target. And then
Right.
Next thing you know.
Yeah.
Like they
Not that those cities weren't real targets.
They avoided Tokyo and Kyoto.
That's
Well,
what I mean,
Tokyo was
yeah.
destroyed already.
Okay.
Tokyo was taken off before the bomb was ever finished off of the vital target list because they incendiary bombed Tokyo and actually more people died.
Was
in
that the thing with the bats?
No, the bats never happened.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about the bats?
Well, I thought there was a thing where they put like bombs on
it's
bats.
a real thing.
It's a real thing that
But it was never deployed. It was tested and it worked.
Okay.
Brian's talking about the bat bomb. For anybody that doesn't know, it was a secret weapon. It was a secret
It's
weapon developed by the United States.
C4 to a
Eleanor
bat.
Roosevelt's friend came up with it. So Japan at the time had all these buildings that were essentially made of wood and paper.
Mhm.
They didn't use a lot of concrete. So fire is real fucking problematic for them. So what this thing was you'd take a giant capsule and you'd fill it with bats, you know, Batman
Yeah.
bats.
Yeah, bats. The animal.
And you put little incendiary devices on their legs. So you take this bomb, you fly it over Tokyo and you drop it, and all the bats fly out. And inevitably, bats, what they do is they go up into rafters and attics and things. And then all of a sudden, at the same time, the timed incendiary devices go off. You'd have thousands of fires all over a city at the same time. It'd be impossible to fight the fire. It's a good idea if you want to kill a lot of people.
Yeah.
But
Funny though.
They never went through with it.
they made it. When they tested it, it burnt down the little village that they had made.
Okay.
But the war was over. But by the time it was ready to be deployed,
So I thought that was deployed.
no. But
That was
incendiary
popular,
bombs
the
were
bat
used.
Population just wiped out.
Incendiary bombs were used in the war, and Tokyo was devastated by this, and more people died in that than the atomic bomb.
Okay.
Now we have white phosphorus.
So I got them mixed up.
Yeah.
Oof. Little science for you.
But back to the movie. So the government decides that we're going to get the Manhattan Project going, and they're going to put Oppenheimer in charge despite his communist leanings.
Yeah.
And Oppenheimer in the movie would have you believe it's because of his communist leanings, because they can
Yes.
control him.
Yeah.
And come on, man. Like, why? Why do you do this?
It's just
all the
again and again.
time? Like,
It's the poor downtrodden communists. You know,
it's not the
because this is a Hollywood movie, and that's what they're going to do.
I know.
Because they're still mad at Joseph McCarthy from 70 years ago.
He was right.
But that's that. I feel.
By the way, Matt Damon, really fucking great in this.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody is great.
Maybe his best performance.
Goodwill Hunting
Ooh.
still, but he's great in this.
Everybody he plays Groves. He plays
Yeah.
General.
Yeah,
Groves.
yeah. He was
There is
fantastic.
not a bad performance in this. Groves, what do we know about him?
He's a colonel that they made a general and put him in charge of the Manhattan Project.
That's really the only.
That's really all you need to know about him. And he worked, alongside Oppenheimer.
And he
to
did
get
seem
these
to
guys.
like Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I'm sure they had a good personal
I
work.
think
Some
he had
sort
a-
of respect.
In the movie, they said he had a background in engineering. I don't know if that's the truth.
He went to MIT.
He did actually go to MIT.
That's what they said in the movie.
I guess we have to touch on his love life, right?
Okay.
This is all real in the movie. They actually nailed everything about this part.
Yeah.
Honestly, if there's one thing that they got very right, it was his love life.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like it was he had a communist girlfriend. He had this wife who was an ex-communist. Like
who he stole from her husband.
Yes.
that happened.
Well, he's a philanderer. He fucks
yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
And then
ex-girlfriend did kill herself after
Yep.
they were together one night.
Now,
Now-
some people believe that it was a hit.
In the movie,
Yeah.
there's a moment where there's a
see a
hand
hand.
holding her down underwater.
Yes.
Who is that supposed? Is that supposed to be Oppenheimer?
I think it's Oppenheimer's worries that he's a suspect.
So there is a popular conspiracy theory that they're paying off in the movie that leading you to like
Interpret it.
interpret it. That's my interpretation, because there is a conspiracy that some people think she was killed because she was a communist connected to Oppenheimer.
Mhm.
And what
By who? The government?
Yeah.
Well, you got to remember, Oppenheimer's working in the Manhattan Project at this point,
Mhm.
right? And he is going and banging this communist.
Right.
So some
So
people,
she's a loose end.
she did not sign her suicide note. Some people think that she did not kill herself and it was a hit.
Uh huh. So
And
they play with that
In the
film.
movie, they play with it.
Now
where
I'm
it could
wondering
be anything.
because in the beginning we talked about he put cyanide in the apple.
Yeah.
And this is, we don't know if this happened or not. This is something in the movie. Are they setting up that maybe he has some kind of killer instinct in him? And he's the guy that's murdering this woman?
No, I don't think they're
no.
setting that up.
Okay.
I read it as, because when you see that happen, he's kind of like crying and distraught.
Yes.
Because he's telling his wife.
He goes out in the woods.
I was with her. Yeah. He was like, I was with her before it, like the night before it happened. And in his head, he's seeing it happen. And he's like, oh, it might have been someone who killed her. It might have just been her suiciding. I don't know. I think it's his own worry that they're showing.
There's a weird thing about her death, like as far as the chemicals in there, that it doesn't make sense with like an overdose in her blood. And this is so the conspiracy theory that she was killed. There was a TV show in 1975, or there was something called the Church Committee. Do you know what that is?
No, I don't.
So the Church Committee
of Churches.
It revealed the details of assassinations that were carried out by American intelligence agencies.
Oh, like the heart attack gun.
Yes, and they depicted some of these murders, and one is very similar to how they suspect Gene Tatlock would have died. That's the communist. Now, another thing that I want to give the movie credit for, this is the first mainstream American movie I have seen in quite some time where characters have sex. I'm serious, with a real people.
What do you mean? There hasn't been a sex scene in recent memory?
Since basically 2008, sex has been scrubbed from cinema.
Come on. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's true.
I'm trying to think of one.
There's comedies that have it.
No, there hasn't been recent comedies.
There's a
with
lot
sex
of
scenes.
shows that have it.
I'm not talking TV shows. I'm not talking HBO, Game of Thrones.
What's the reasoning there?
Part of the reasoning is the infantilization
of the American people.
Of the American people. It's also all the biggest movies have been basically dominated by Disney since like 2012.
You're right there.
So movies made for adults with characters fucking has been off the table. Another reason for it is anytime a male director shows nudity or sex or tits or anything, get him is waving a dildo at us.
A green Shrek dildo.
Yeah. But anytime an American director that's male shows tits in a movie now, you have people who are angry and they say it's the male gaze. And
male gaze?
No, not those kind of male gaze. G-A-Z-E.
What are those gays doing now?
In fact, some people...
Those wacky gays.
Oh, they're showing tits
again.
Just like gays do.
Let's see some more tits.
More.
I'm a male gaze. And I love chicks with tits and stuff.
Another thing, do you know people are mad about the casting in this movie because of the age gap between the lead and Gene Tatlock? They're like, the age gap is too much.
That's
and
what it was, though. In real life.
Yeah, he's like banging his students.
Yeah.
In real life, in real
he's
life,
actually older.
Oppenheimer is 20. No, in real life, Oppenheimer is 10 years older than Gene. In the actor is 20 years older. What's the fucking like the nitpicking that goes on from these people on fucking Twitter?
They're not people.
Yeah,
that's why you don't count.
I know, but what I'm saying is like, so I think people and corporations have been scared to do that. And out of all directors, I'm kind of surprised it's Nolan.
Why?
Because that doesn't seem like something he would do.
His movies always kind of seem a little bit antiseptic.
I find his work to be pretty hollow usually.
It's emotionless.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why that's why I said this is his best work. Because it actually has.
It does. It does explore.
This is his first time having a character.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is like a in-depth.
I mean, outside of Batman,
Batman's not a character.
Yeah, but
the Joker is, and so
then.
is
the Joker's a force.
He's a force.
Okay. But Dunkirk doesn't have a fucking.
Dunkirk does not have a character.
Yeah.
No, Inception had characters.
I like Inception.
Yeah.
Inception's a good movie, but. And you know what that does? It kind of does get to the heart of Leo's character.
Yeah.
You know, I'll walk back for Inception.
That's a bad take.
I'll walk it back for Inception.
Dunkirk, you're right.
It's his first one since Inception where I kind of give a shit about the character.
This is the story that's the best crafted, you know, even though I do dislike parts of it.
Well,
it's still the best crafted.
That was my walking out of the movie. That was my biggest problem or criticism of the movie. It's like once the bomb goes off, because that's what everybody's here for, right?
Yep.
everything after that, and it's about 40 minutes to an hour after that.
You just don't
It's just
care.
like, I don't care
Yeah.
about this.
Yeah.
That's my favorite stuff in
Let's
the movie.
wrap it up.
It is the worst.
That is my favorite
It's
stuff in the movie. All that
boring.
stuff. Because
The
I
payoffs
know,
mean nothing.
I know they're going to drop the bomb.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening after.
Well, I was expecting when I went in, it was like, okay, we're going to get some of the geopolitics and the exciting stuff. But no, it's just we're gonna drag him through this hearing where people come in and go, he's actually a good guy. That's it. That's what it is for 40 minutes.
Or it's people going, he's
not that good.
He's not good. It's one or the other.
You're right.
And they even have a lawyer who says that. His friends say he's good.
Right.
His
friends say he's good. These guys investigating him say he's not good. And then they make a judgment.
What are you going to do?
Right.
And I have thoughts about that I'll touch on at the end.
And it was just for his top security clearance.
Well, that's, yeah.
And it's like, oh no, you're not working for the government anymore.
He doesn't get involved in the global decision
You're
making.
still a massive force in the academic community.
Right.
But he can't be a celebrity the same way.
Sure. It drags his name through the mud.
Well, if you're working on that top secret stuff, you can't be a celebrity anyway. You shouldn't.
But he was.
You shouldn't be.
But he was. They say it in the movie. He's using that to push
Mhm.
public policy
Right,
and
but that's
perception
why he
towards
had to
what he
have
wants
it.
to
That's
be.
why he had to have it taken away.
But that's not why it was taken away.
I actually think that is why it was taken away.
Right.
He is openly against, things like the hydrogen bomb and,
Yeah.
and things like what America's policy is.
Right.
And that will put him on the radar of people like McCarthy. That's
Also
gonna take
very
him out.
socially liberal.
It's also extremely relevant that everyone he knows is a communist and he's had communist leanings.
Well, I don't want to let's get back to that at the end.
Right.
So, in the movie, the Manhattan Project starts, and they kind of have like a putting the team together moment.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're
very
gonna
cool stuff.
I love this stuff. They're like, we're gonna have a team in this city, a team in this city,
Chicago.
They're trying to compartmentalize it.
And they combine all those compartments into one center focal point in the country, connected by a train.
Yes.
I loved what they
Los
did
Alamos.
with the two brandy glasses, one for uranium, one for plutonium.
Yes.
Whichever, we need this much filled. Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
Like and it just as like the ticking clock
Yep.
of once
Once
we
it's
have
full.
these enriched minerals.
Yep.
We can use
And
them
they're
to blow
enriching
up
it in
stuff.
Tennessee. Did
Right.
you know about that?
Yeah.
Okay. And I found this out today. Apparently, Los Alamos was not abandoned. Like it wasn't like this.
No,
empty-
it was supposed to go on to make the next bomb.
No. Like before they built it, there were people living there.
Oh yeah.
in the area.
Yeah, some woman actually, like her family was living there, and she won 2 class action lawsuits against the government
Because they nuked her backyard.
because they basically threw these people out of that area, right?
Mhm.
They made some of the men like dig and do shit like grunt work. This woman, Leota Martinez, basically sued the government twice and won class action lawsuits.
Oh,
Wow.
good for her.
But from them detonating the bombs and testing it, there's these people called downwinders. Have you heard of this?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Where it's regular people that just happen to be downwind of these tests, and they got all sorts of fucking cancers and shit.
Well, that reminds me of the great John Wayne.
Oh yeah,
Like, John Wayne famously
Genghis Khan.
he was in the movie The Conqueror, where he plays Genghis Khan. Which
We got
is
to watch that.
the worst.
Yeah.
We do need to watch that, which is the worst casting of all time. I've never seen it, but I'm sure it's
Okay,
horrendous.
China, I'm gonna tear down this wall.
But when they filmed it,
it,
these dummies went and rode horses through the fucking Trinity test site, kicked up a bunch of
and this
dust,
is like 1950,
Yeah.
right? It's like
and they
After.
they gave themselves cancer, and poor John Wayne died because of making this stupid movie.
So brutal. Yeah. If you're the location scout for that film, how do you fuck that up? So bad.
apparently you can go there twice a year now.
Probably.
That's
I'm
what I was
sure the
told.
isotopes have degraded to the point where it's not
They
deadly.
do
immediately.
tours
Yeah.
like you can't take any stand or anything,
Uh-huh.
but there's 2 days a year where they do like a tour. They bring you to the test site, like walk around,
Mhm.
and they're like get the fuck out.
If you come here 3 times, you die.
It's the same thing in Chernobyl now.
Yeah.
You know, like you can go on a tour of Pripyat.
You can drink the
Oh,
water.
really?
Yeah.
It's radiated. Well, that's another thing I loved in this film is that you constantly, when they're near the bomb, you hear the radiation going off. That's what you hear.
What, like the zzz?
Those clips like.
Oh yeah.
That's radiation hitting the microphone.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
My uncle pointed out last night that there's constantly 100% of the time music playing in the movie.
Yeah, I hate that.
And
except the bomb.
Exactly. That's the only time it's silent is when the bomb goes off, and for those couple of seconds. It's kind of a cool movie.
Well,
moment,
that's how they want to. That's how they get.
But I
you
don't
with the
think
impact.
you needed music constantly. I think that was
I
also
think
a
it works.
mistake.
Mm-hmm.
I like the silence for the bomb because you want.
It's very jarring because you're used to hearing it.
Yeah.
And then when the explosion happens, it's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So let's talk about putting the team together.
Okay.
You get all these
Heavy
communist-leaning academics.
Well, that's who you need, right? Not because the communists, because that's the academic community.
It's just so it doesn't matter.
These are the geniuses. We got to get them here. Whatever their political leanings are is irrelevant. We have a job to do.
Exactly. We got to get this done. And you know what? Say what you will about them.
They're all professionals.
They got the job done.
With the exception of one guy who was in fact a communist spy.
Well, there was a couple.
Yeah.
But there was that whole ring. I think they're called the Atomic Five.
Well, you've got the Rosenbergs in 1951, I believe.
Well, they're connected to
Klaus
to Fuchs, right? Is that
Klaus
his name?
Fuchs, Fuchs, whatever,
Fuchs.
however you say it.
Klaus
Fuchs, who's a German national who's been exiled from Germany since the Nazis took power.
Yep.
And he is a nuclear physicist. And he will betray the United States and hand over his information on the Manhattan Project to Stalin. And when during the Potsdam Conference, when Truman and they show it in the movie, he makes reference to the existence of a superweapon to Stalin. Stalin already knows all about it.
Yeah, because he has Fuchs and he has the Rosenbergs and he has all these. There's a whole ring of people relaying information.
Right.
Well, it's the same exact thing that's happening in the United States is happening in Russia simultaneously almost. They're both trying to develop the same thing. They're both trying to protect that information. And they both feel that they're enemies that need them.
Definitely to a much lesser extent in Russia.
Sure, but
they got other problems.
It still was happening. So
think about, I just want to, can we talk about the political situation in Europe post-war for a second?
Post-war? Yeah.
How far are we talking? Like right after?
1945.
Okay.
War ends.
We're skipping Germany's defeated.
War's over.
Defeated
War's
movie,
over, right? Here's the political situation. America and the Western Allies immediately start sending the boys back home, right?
Yep. They listen to Roger Waters.
Yeah.
They listen to the final cut.
Germany itself is split in two. You've got the East Germany, which is run by the Soviet Union, and then West Germany is split between the three Western Allies, France, Britain, and the United States.
You never saw the West Germans running to the East side, I'll say that.
That's very true.
Can't imagine why.
Berlin itself is split up, right? The most powerful fighting force on Earth is sitting on the German border, and it's the Red Army. It's the largest one by far. And with the de-escalation of the Western Allies, the only thing stopping a Russian invasion of the West at that moment is nothing. All they need is
desire
boots.
to do it.
Right. So how do you counter that? Obviously, the West has air superiority and absolute naval superiority. And the ace in the hole is the atomic bomb, right?
Yep.
I know I'm harping on this, but there's a lot of temptation among the United States to just go buck wild and take over the planet.
If I'm going to be honest, what I've always thought is I'm about to become the most hated guy in the show. I think we should have just ran rampant while no one else had them and just took over the whole fucking planet.
There were people saying that at the time.
It's like
as the most reasonable thing. That guy Bertrand Russell was like, yes. America needs to establish a global empire right now.
Brian wants Myanmar now.
Nobody could stop us.
Why do we not have Madagascar? I need it.
Yeah, like Patton wanted to nuke Russia right away.
Yeah. And obviously,
because
in hindsight, that wasn't the right move.
Against you.
You know, things turned out for the best.
Did they?
As far as the world not blowing up, yeah.
But we could have bent them all to our fucking will. Everybody would be red, white, and blue. Everybody would be saying the pledge.
No. So yeah, like back to the political stance where you have what's the thing? It's the atom bomb. I don't think that we had the resources to replicate enough to stop them.
Oh yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean? Look how long it took to make like 3.
Yes.
Well,
because
the first one is the hardest to
years.
build.
Right, but it's also the
But
process.
you have to enrich
I know.
Exactly.
so much.
You need a certain amount of nuclear
And
material.
on top of that, what
Well,
you don't
didn't
realize
we tell Japan we had more and we didn't?
Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah.
what you don't realize though about this too is when you're enriching this stuff around this time, you're losing scientists left and right.
Why? They're dying?
Oh yeah, to like test this stuff?
So
I didn't know that.
Oh,
I
yeah,
actually
dude.
I wrote down the amount that died.
In the
Yeah,
Manhattan Project.
Yes.
It was not fun for a lot of people.
Yeah, there's a moment in the movie where they point out the woman, they don't know what the effects on her reproductive organs are. and
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah,
So yeah, there is a danger
Two scientists died while working on the Manhattan Project.
just from exposure to
And you have to
radiation.
remember-
No, one guy like dropped plutonium and like it
Yeah.
the spores like killed him.
Oh fuck.
And how about this? That same like thing of plutonium
Mhm.
killed another guy like a year later.
Just some spores in the room.
Like it
you get hit by that radiation. You're
like
dead.
2 guys
You're just
handling the same rod fucked up
Yeah.
and it killed them. It's like a cursed rod of plutonium,
Yeah.
whatever they were doing.
Holy shit.
So, and you have to remember though, when you lose like a scientist there, you ain't replacing that guy. He's
No,
the best in the country
right.
that you had to dig for, and it was hard to get him here to begin with.
Right.
So if you
Yeah, these are
lose, like,
valuable
5
human
or 6
beings.
scientists, you're adding months of work because now you got
Because they're the only ones that can do it.
Right. And
Wow.
there's a wonderful movie that I didn't see, but I saw a clip of it. You ever see?
You ever see Trinity and Beyond?
Is that the Buzz Lightyear film?
Yes, no. It's William Shatner is narrating footage of the Trinity
No,
tests.
I haven't.
And like I think Bikini Atoll and shit.
Atoll.
Atoll, yeah. And it's just like
the Demon Core.
The Demon Core.
The
What a
Demon
great
Core.
name.
So it's a spherical mass of plutonium,
Uh-huh.
and
Is it a
in
fictional
World War
movie,
II,
or it's
no,
a-
this is real.
Okay.
This is the Demon Core is real. When you're testing it, you have to stand behind bricks. Remember when in Oppenheimer you actually see it when they go onto the football stadium, you see
Yeah.
that stack of bricks, and you're hearing the
yeah.
that's radiation shooting out of the Demon Core that's in there.
Well, that's them separating the isotopes of the uranium, right?
they're irradiating the uranium.
Right.
They're making it radioactive.
Yeah. So the way they dug up ore all over the world, like they got a lot from the Congo.
Yeah. Mhm.
At the time, they only had like 4 places on Earth that could produce uranium ore. There was the Congo. I think there was one in Canada, one in Colorado, and one in Czechoslovakia.
Mhm.
This is obviously the one the Germans are using.
Yeah.
You then have to process that ore into a metal.
Yeah.
And doing that is like a giant process. I don't know the details of it.
Yeah.
But you only get a little bit of metal from that. And then that has to be irradiated somehow.
Yeah.
Do you know
You
how it
have to
works?
like
And they
hit-
use the
hit it.
graphite to do that.
Yeah, you have to like I believe you have to hit it with like neutrons. I'm not 100%
You
on it.
bombard it with neutrons. Right?
Yeah, like neutrons and neutrinos, and you eventually the atoms are moving so much that it's trying to escape. That's why you get that explosion.
And the way
That's the energy buildup that
Yeah.
will be released by the bomb.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm pretty. I'm
It's
probably
like a
wrong.
charge, right?
I'm not a physicist, but yeah. But what
you're
the-
wearing a lab coat. I'm
I
going to
know.
believe anything you say.
I know, but what the demon
Trust the
core,
science.
What the Demon Core actually, what it is, they had a really bad incident when they're testing it. You have this cap to go over it,
Mhm.
so it's this sphere, and when you put the cap, the radiation starts going faster because you're taking the proximity of the area around it and closing it in, so the radiation shooting back and forth, and it
Uh-huh.
increases. What happened was they were using a screwdriver to hold it open, and they dropped it and it closed. So what happens when the Demon Core closed, the radiation spikes and it spreads around the room. So if you're not standing behind something safe, you get radiation poisoning almost instantly.
Oh,
So
like
the
Spock.
guy who fucked up grabbed the top of the core and ripped it off. When he did that, the
He's dead.
radiation from his hand killed him 2 weeks later, but everyone else in the room survived.
He gave his life to save everybody.
And
What do you think of my solution?
What happens? There's a movie about it.
Ship
Out of danger. He's not really gone.
It's called
As long as we remember.
Fat Man and Little Boy is the movie. It's
Wow.
about and they
That's
show
gonna
in the
be me
clip.
if I ever have a son.
It's from 1989. They show in the clip when he drops it. He goes, "Nobody move. take any metal pieces you have off because they might be radiated. He gives them all a piece of chalk. He goes, mark where you're standing and write your name and get out. Because he knew in that instant, he's like, I'm dead. But now I have to calculate who else is poisoned.
To save you all.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I know that when Chernobyl happened, everybody that was exposed had to throw their clothes away.
Yes, you have to.
Yeah, you know.
The radiation
I think that
sticks.
was just they wanted to see everyone naked, and someone's like, "We better take off all our clothes."
It was
guys.
just a Russian pervert.
Yeah.
You want to
gotta
see
drop
some
your
dicks.
Yeah. I want to see some fat hog.
Radiation, you got to drop trowel. You know what I mean?
All right, so the Manhattan Project, they build the nuke.
Okay, so the bomb, right? This is the big
bomb.
The big scene for the movie.
Yep.
Kind of underwhelming. End of story. It's kind of underwhelming.
You know what? I think people have an idea that it's going to look like a nuke, and it's an atom bomb. It's a little different.
Well,
but the explosion.
Nolan doesn't use
massive.
CGI, right?
Nope.
So it's a real bomb. He set off a real fucking bomb to film this, which everybody wants to see. But then you see it,
and it's a bomb.
And it's a bomb. And
it's fire.
It's it's cool. I'm not trying to say it's not a visually interesting thing. I'm just saying it doesn't look like an atomic bomb. We've all seen the atomic bomb. We know what it looks like. We know what the mushroom cloud looks like. And that wasn't it. And
you think it was just TNT?
I saw Twin Peaks episode 8. And that is the best bomb ever put to film.
All right.
And it doesn't stack up.
I have how they did it.
Okay.
So they made a very big miniature they called it a bigature.
A bigature.
Yeah, I don't know how big it is.
So it's Archie Bunker. He's the bigot.
Yes.
And then they blow him up.
Yeah. It was magnesium, gas, propane, and aluminum powder.
So it wasn't.
Put that together.
It wasn't an atom bomb.
It was not an atom bomb.
Whoa! Shocker!
It was just a very, very big explosion.
Right.
Yeah.
That they did,
and you could tell. You could tell it's just a big explosion.
In 70 millimeter, it looks good, great.
But I kind of agree with Ant where you watch it, and it's like, if you could tell that's not an atom bomb.
But what do you propose they would do?
Drop an atom bomb.
I think that would have been.
No,
awesome.
look. As much as I enjoy his commitment to authenticity, maybe this could have been pumped up.
Listen, he should have hit Hiroshima.
Just like when in Dunkirk, Dunkirk, you have the hundreds of British ships that are supposed to come and rescue the people on the beach, right? In Nolan's movie, it's like 15 ships.
Yeah.
And it's very apparent on the screen. You're not capturing what happened.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the reality. I do. I think it's great. I loved when he flipped the fucking truck in Batman. That was great. Everybody loved it. It's just sometimes when you're dealing with things that are this scale and you have the tools, they're right in front of you that you can use to make it look incredible.
So I saw an interview with him and he said that the second the bomb is CG, people will smell that it's fake and the film loses any sort of power it could have because it feels artificial automatically.
He may be right. This was just, I was expecting a visual, to be stunned. I was expecting to be stunned. I went into that movie thinking this is visually going to be one of the greatest things I ever see, and it just wasn't.
Yeah. Agreed. I agree with you.
He didn't meet the hype.
You had high
He didn't meet the hype.
Okay.
Agreed.
I'm sorry, everyone.
No.
I know you all
It's a
love
movie
Christopher
review.
fucking Nolan.
It's a movie
Because
review,
when we
bro.
talked about the Rockstar directors, I had 15 people contact me and be like, what about Christopher Nolan?
Did you really?
Yes.
That?
And can I tell you something about Christopher Nolan? I don't know what the fuck he looks like. I've never seen the man. He's not a Rockstar director. People love his work. They don't love him. Steven Spielberg is a Rockstar director. People love him. Quentin Tarantino is a Rockstar director.
Or is Lucas.
Who the fuck is Christopher Nolan? I know his movies. I don't know the man.
Do you know Stanley Kubrick?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't know what he looks like either.
He's a Rockstar
I do
director.
know what fucking
Alfred Hitchcock?
No, the one we did with Alexander. Oliver Stone.
Oliver Stone.
I know Oliver Stone.
Well, he has that show, right?
What about
where he goes and talks to despots.
What about fucking Ridley Scott?
Mhm. Yeah, Ridley Scott's another one.
I'm going to be honest. I'm not the biggest Nolan fan.
Right.
I think he's maybe 60% for me as far as movies. But, I got to respect him for like what he does.
Right.
I saw he did a thing where it's him and Robert Downey Jr. like they were sitting together answering questions with each other.
Mhm.
And it was the first time I saw him actually kind of behaving like a human. And he came off likable. And I was like, maybe I was wrong about this guy.
I've never even seen that. I just know I know him from his work.
Yeah.
I do not know the man. And
How
therefore,
do you feel about his work?
he cannot be a rock star director, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. I feel like a rock star director is someone that like can show up on a talk show and people like
Oh,
They're gonna
know
go,
who
"Holy
that
shit!"
is.
Yeah. Right. What do I think of his work?
Yeah.
The movies I've seen, which is I haven't seen all of them. I've seen
The
you know,
Batman.
I've seen the Batman. I've seen Inception. I've seen this. I've seen Dunkirk. I like every one of those movies. I think
Except you don't like Dark Knight Rises.
Dark Knight Rises is fucking terrible. This of the ones I just said is the weakest one.
Really?
No.
This movie, Oppenheimer.
You
I
know
gotta
you know
disagree.
it's better than Dark Knight.
It's not better than Dark Knight. Dark Knight is a great
Even
movie.
with all the plot holes that I pointed out to you about
Yes,
how
there are
bad
tons
it
of
is.
plot holes, but it is a fun, enjoyable movie, and it is better than this one.
Nah, this is better. This is his best work.
No, this is a bore fest.
I love
There is large portions of this movie that I just don't give a fuck about because I was falling asleep.
I have to side with Ant here. There's
Yeah.
a lot of stuff that is unnecessary, but I disagree with him saying it's his worst. This is his best work, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it is a slugfest at times. It's very boring, especially at the next part that we're going to get into. The bomb goes off, and you're like, if you've never seen something like that, you're probably blown away. You're like, wow, that's a fucking nuclear.
But everyone has
that's
seen
an
something
atom
like that.
dude. You have to remember, the general public is really bad at this.
At what? At watching footage
any
of atomic
history
bombs?
things, man.
caring. Yeah.
Caring about history. So they're probably like, wow, that's a big explosion, you know?
Yeah.
But it still is amazing that they did it. I think that's the point of that moment where it's like, wow, they did it, and they had those fears where they might destroy the whole world.
Mhm.
Now we get the next
Yeah,
part.
they apparently we didn't mention it, but
Yeah.
they thought they may light up the atmosphere
Mhm.
and
Oh, yeah,
burn
yeah.
the world.
That the
That was a
fission,
fear.
they think the fission reaction is going to continue with
And never
all
stop.
atoms, not because everything's
Yeah.
made of atoms. So,
which we'll talk about
You know.
later.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know,
but well, now would be the time because
well
like,
he goes to Albert Einstein because they're nervous about that,
Yeah.
and Einstein is like, oh, looks like it's your
Like,
fucking problem.
No way to know until you do it.
Yeah.
he goes, "This is why I don't like math,"
Yeah.
and he wasn't good at math, Albert Einstein.
No, neither was Oppenheimer.
And we get the next scene after the bomb explodes, and it's like, it's nothing. It's, oh, look, some hearings about his
No, you're
secret clearance.
So we get the scene of him giving the speech, which is a real speech he gave
Mhm.
after,
Yeah.
where he's like, people may one day curse Los
Oh,
Alamos.
yeah, I forgot about that. I'm sorry. Yeah.
And like, I like that we see the effect.
I think just speaking on the man, the real man, I think the moment he saw the bomb blow up, it killed his soul. You know, he was a changed man from that moment. He understood immediately the effect this was going to have.
Yes.
And the speech scene is the movie's way of visualizing what he went through.
When I love that scene. So he's giving a speech and you see like the skin melting off people
Yeah.
as if the
Yeah.
crowd is being annihilated by the atom
By
bomb.
what he
Right.
created.
And as he's
Yeah.
walking out, he does like, and they've dropped it on Hiroshima and Nagasaki at this point. And we see him walking out and he steps in
a charred
a
body.
charred body.
Right.
And it's like
Smash.
he's walking on the fucking graves
Of the world.
of these people,
right.
you know? And he's thinking of the effect. And it's like, no matter what, the first person to do this to the world,
Mhm.
you gotta feel fucked up.
Yeah, well, he is the father of the atomic bomb.
Yes.
Right? So
That's your
and
legacy.
all of the responsibility that comes with that. Thankfully, we haven't had to reckon with it at this point.
We're
in
the only
history.
country at this time to drop it.
No, I mean today, sitting in this room.
Oh.
You know, humanity hasn't had to face nuclear holocaust.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that's why the final moment of the
Yeah.
movie where he goes, "We destroyed the world."
Wait, I wanted to, let's
Okay. Sorry.
save that.
Okay.
But we get the, so we get, you know, all the kind of aftermath of dropping the bomb.
Mhm.
And some people are like, we got to move on to hydrogen now and make bigger bombs.
Well, there's a guy saying that before they even finished the first
Yes,
one.
the father of the hydrogen bomb, which his name is
Till.
Edward Teller.
Mhm.
Tell her, yeah.
He was,
He's the partner of Penn.
Yes.
Yeah,
He's quiet.
Yeah.
They do crazy tricks.
People can't see unless they're on video.
Brian just did a wonderful teller impression.
But so the whole time he kind of wants to do the hydrogen bomb.
Yeah.
And honestly, when you watch the movie, it seems like most of the ideas came from him. Like he seems like the most instrumental guy as far as
hydrogen,
as far as all the bomb shit. Like he's the one who's like the atmosphere thing.
Obviously, he's an integral part of the whole.
Well, the atmosphere thing was wrong. It was just a theory.
It was a theory, but he did the math eventually, which kind of disproved it in real life.
Right.
Yeah.
But
and the hydrogen can't happen without the atom bomb because you need a big enough explosion to do.
Well, they have to figure out how to do it.
Until they figure out the atom, you're not getting near the hydrogen. So,
but right away,
he was actually like a detriment to the success. Because if he was actually working on what he should have been working on and not the future theories, they probably would have reached the end goal quicker.
But they needed to be ready right away to go into the H-bomb.
Sure, but that's not his job at that point. His job was to get the atom bomb. That's why they had a lot of problems.
No, well, they're scientists researching shit, you know?
Anyway, no, I know, but in the movie, they actually have a problem with him too.
Well, they get mad.
Yeah.
These are all, look, I'm a Jew. You got a room full of fucking Jews. We're going to be annoying. We're going to hate each other.
Kvetch.
Yeah, it's got to be the biggest fucking bitch fest ever happened in the planet.
Self-important Jews in a community together.
Like, I'm like, oh man, if I was in there, I'd be like, the annoyance, the self-importance.
They're sitting there like,
I don't know. Should we do this?
Brian's sitting there. It's like a toilet bowl.
We have to think of the implications.
You'd all be dead now because of David. You're all dead now because of J. Robert.
So yeah, like they celebrate the dropping of the bombs, and then this is where it lost me completely after this.
Well, hold on. So he becomes like a celebrity. He's on Time Magazine. All that shit's real.
He gets to meet Truman. Which is my favorite scene in the movie.
This is real.
Yeah, 100%.
Truman called him a baby, a crybaby.
Truman, I'd heard a different quote in the past, and the quote I know is a little more harsh. So what happens is Oppenheimer meets the president.
Yes.
And obviously this is the president
who launched it.
Who launched the fucking bombs.
Dropped them.
And he goes, I have blood on I feel as though I have blood on my hands. Oppenheimer. Meanwhile, you're talking to the man who literally has blood on his hands. He's killed tens of thousands of people. He's killed millions of people if you count the entire fucking war.
Yeah.
And Truman hands him a napkin and goes like, clean yourself off.
Wipe your hands.
He's disgusted by him. And when he has him removed from the room, he says in the movie, he calls him a baby, right?
He calls him a crybaby. Yeah. That's real. That's
don't
a real
quote. Don't let that crybaby.
The quote that I heard, and I don't know which one is correct, is get this fucking cretin out of here. He didn't drop the bomb. I did.
He can't take my guilt.
Do you think anybody's going to remember who created the goddamn bomb?
Right. Yeah.
They're going to remember the one who dropped it.
Right.
It ain't about you.
And Gary Oldman plays Truman. It's cool. And I love the suit is great. This was a great scene.
He said, I don't want to see this son of a bitch in the office ever again.
Yeah. And you always think of Truman as like, the country bumpkin guy.
Yeah. Defeats Dewey.
Yeah.
You know?
And here he is just bitching out this fucking guy, this morbid fuck.
Yeah. Shut up, nerd. I'll give you a fucking wedgie.
I remember leaving the theater saying he was the worst actor in the movie.
Yeah, I think you're wrong.
Yeah, no, I loved it. He's Gary Oldman. He's going to be
great
every
dude.
time.
I love him too, but I just feel like he was the worst role in the movie.
Jean-Baptiste Emmanuel Zola.
I whispered that in his ear when he came on the screen.
I heard you whisper something and he started laughing. But so now we kind of get to the scene with all the scientists talking. The Russians have the H-bomb.
Yeah, they find out that.
Why do we not have this? Why have we not been developing it? Oppenheimer has been opposed to escalating things.
Well, it becomes very apparent that there must have been a spy.
They're spies.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Oppenheimer's like, there's no spy. And they're just like, they got the bomb. They have the bomb.
Right.
There's a spy.
Right.
And Oppenheimer's like, nah.
No, so in the movie, do you think?
Are we supposed to think, by the way, throughout the whole Manhattan Project sequence, we didn't touch on this. Are we supposed to think like the security processes are over the top and not necessary?
No.
As far as the film is concerned?
I think it's kind of just a snapshot of what it was.
Yeah.
I think it's just accurate.
You know what? You're right. It's the scientists not appreciating the importance of the security.
Yes.
And the government and the military men being like, what are you doing?
It's self-important scientists
who think they're better than everyone.
Who thinks they're better than everyone.
Right.
And in fact, Robert Downey Jr. as the bad guy says, like, all these scientists think they're fucking better than everyone.
Yeah.
You can't
And they do.
You can't tell them anything.
Right.
Yeah.
You know? You just have to believe them on everything.
It's also a bunch of communists where they think sharing everything is important. And it's like, no, you
I don't know if
idiots.
that plays into it. I'm not going to go that far.
I'm just saying in general.
But let me ask you a question. Do you think the movie wants you to think that Oppenheimer was okay with the Soviets getting the plans?
Yeah.
Like he wasn't that
so.
like concerned about
I think
security.
he wanted that. Well, we know for a fact he wanted that after.
Yeah.
He wanted everybody to be on the same page.
Yep.
That way, no one could do the unthinkable.
Mhm.
You know? I don't think he ever wanted to be the guy that made that happen. He wasn't treasonous.
I don't think he was.
And that's my opinion. And he very well may have been in reality. We'll never know.
Groves doesn't think he was treasonous either.
There's a scene where he's given the opportunity to pass secrets along to the foreign powers.
Yes.
And he doesn't take it.
And he doesn't rat.
He doesn't rat either. Yeah. So I think
I love that scene, by the way, when Casey Affleck shows up.
Mhm.
Casey Affleck's performance is like actually like fucking scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where he's like, tell me who it is. And he's just so calm.
Oh, yes. He's the
Pasha.
the current that
could-
guy's amazing.
He killed Soviets with his bare
He's
hands.
he was in the Imperial Russian Army with the whites during the Russian Civil War. Yeah, he's a fucking brutal guy. His father
Boris Posh.
Yeah, his father was an Eastern Orthodox bishop who was murdered by the Bolsheviks.
Yeah, he hates commies.
Yeah. and we're supposed to be like this evil man.
Right.
You know? Yeah, I know. It's so one-sided. It's just so one-sided. Like the audience is supposed to be like, this is a scary guy who Oppenheimer needs to be afraid of. It's like, no, this is a guy who's looking out for the best interests of everyone.
What I'll say is, I think
he was on track.
I think that it's kind of more nuanced than we're giving it credit for, because it's like at this point, like security, it kind of doesn't matter as much as just getting the fucking job done. Like it's the only thing that matters. And I think that's kind of the stance they're taking.
I think that's debatable.
I think that's the stance
because
they're taking.
when the bombs are dropped, no matter how you slice it, the Allies have already won the war. The bombs shorten the war and make it less costly, but the war's already won. So is it more important to get the job done or keep it out of the hands of the next war?
Well, they're at this point when the Pash thing, that's before they've really come as far as they do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not ready to drop them. It's
Yeah.
at the point when they still think the Nazis may have them.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the early stages of the Manhattan Project.
Is it?
Yeah, because
Okay.
he's going to Chicago.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a security clearance.
Oh, okay.
Remember?
Yes.
So that's why.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I could see the argument where it's like nothing matters except just getting this done because it's an arms race with the Nazis.
Right.
Oh, and this is a funny line. So after we miss this, after they discover the bomb, they're like, are we really going to drop this on human beings in Japan? And it's like 6 months ago, you were ready to drop it on Nazis.
Yeah.
The Germans, not human beings.
Yep.
Japanese human beings.
Yep. It's the ultimate religion.
I don't think that the people involved in this, I don't think they had any love for the Japanese.
Well, that's in the movie, right?
Yeah. Nah, I don't think.
It's a line in the movie I just found funny.
I think on some level, every one of these people must have wanted to see the end result of their achievements. You know,
sure. Why do it?
What a man could
but
do
at
to
the same
another
time,
man.
they definitely had moral problems with that too.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, who wouldn't?
Right.
But at the same time, you know what you're working on.
Mhm.
You know why you're there.
So,
you know?
in the movie, it's all but confirmed in real life too. Strauss sets up Oppenheimer for a fall.
Mhm.
They never liked each other. They're diametrically opposed guys.
Right.
Just like in the movie, Oppenheimer embarrassed fucking Strauss
In like a congressional hearing.
in a hearing, yeah, because he wanted to
On
ship.
isotopes.
He wanted
I
to
didn't
ship.
understand what that was about.
He wanted to ship isotopes to Norway.
So isotopes.
Oppenheimer wanted to ship.
No, Strauss.
Strauss. And
For what purpose?
I think weapons.
To make radiated weapons. Yeah.
In Norway.
That's isotopes. That's they do
Right.
in Norway.
I guess to expand I guess that would put atomic weapons in striking distance of the Soviets closer.
In striking distance of everything, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Because obviously if
it's
World
just
War
the
III was
means of
going to kick off
production.
at that point, it's going to be in Germany where it starts.
it's just a means of production, and I think Oppenheimer, if correct me if I'm wrong, says like, yeah, there's no reason to use isotopes here.
Okay, so what it is in 1947, Strauss wanted to start shipping isotopes to Denmark for like medical purposes. Because Strauss, so you got to remember, is a self-educated guy.
Mhm.
He understands a lot about physics, but he's not
on the level.
He's
of these
not a
guys.
scientist.
Right.
Yeah.
He's not a fucking Oppenheimer.
Mhm.
So basically, he wanted
He'll
to.
bring up like a toilet.
He would bring up like a.
Right.
I hope a little better. Did he really say like a toilet? Every time I take a shit, I go, for I have become God, destroyer of worlds. As I do unholy things in there. But he wanted to ship isotopes to Denmark, I believe. And basically, Oppenheimer humiliated him. It was like, you
Right.
may as well send a sandwich. Like, it's useless.
Right. Okay. I get it.
It's like that.
Mhm.
However, I will say that Strauss did want nuclear energy throughout the country. And he was like, I think that this could be like a great thing and basically make like paying for electricity a thing of the past because we can just run on nuclear.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean that's the great positive of all this, right? Is the advent of nuclear power, which I don't think we've really
We haven't used it.
we haven't figured out what we're supposed to do with that as a species yet. You know, the option's there, and there's plenty of people that'll say it's the great thing that's going to elevate humanity, and then there's other people that say no, it's the most dangerous shit ever. I don't know what
There's
the right answer
places
is.
in Europe that are using it.
There's places in Europe
There's
that just
places in-
dismantled all of their capacity to use
That
it,
too.
You know,
There's Japan.
Japan.
That uses
yeah,
it. But
right.
look
Fukushima.
Look, that's what I was about to bring up.
Yeah.
Look at the Fukushima incident. If
Right.
that went worse, you're losing
Millions of people,
millions of people and you can't use that land for thousands of years.
which is what happened in Chernobyl.
right. So yeah, it's
There's a double-edged sword there, and I
Right.
don't think we.
what are you willing to
out
pay?
yet.
Because let's say we put nuclear reactors everywhere. All it takes is one inclined a terrorist group, and now you're wiping out everything.
Right.
But eventually, so they do the hearing where Oppenheimer gets railroaded, and Emily Blunt, his wife he cheated on, she's kind of a firecracker in the courtroom.
Yeah.
I hate her in this. I hate her.
Oh,
in
I thought
this.
she was good.
Oh no,
She was good, but then there's that scene where she's in front of the committee,
Yeah.
and then
the old
she
guy's
turns
like
the old guy, and he's like, "Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. You're a powerful woman.
Yeah,
I like you.
strong woman."
But she's actually, it's not the trope. That actually happened.
Did it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Gidim says that actually happened, so I will shut
The way
up.
they
I was
portray
gonna
it
say that too.
is-
But I think that did happen. Like she was outspoken and passionate,
Mhm.
and
Sure.
and it was a 2-1 vote. So you
Yeah,
know,
he still lost.
I did like that she was stand by a man kind of gal.
stand by.
She wouldn't shake the
your
guy's
man.
hand at the end because he
Yep.
had badmouthed her husband. That was cool.
All right, so let's
Yep.
get to the end.
Mhm.
So
Ending sucked.
throughout the all right, well, hold on. We're gonna disagree strongly here. So
Okay.
throughout the movie, I love this. Robert Downey Jr. is convinced that, and this is fictional. This never happened. Though Oppenheimer and Einstein met,
Mhm.
there's no record of this incident in the movie, like in real life.
I'm sorry. You know what? Go ahead, and then I'll bring it
All right.
up.
So
I feel your tension.
There's a moment that's so horrible.
Egregious. Yeah, I know. I think
Hold
I
on,
know what
hold
you're
on.
talking about. Yeah, continue.
So Einstein is at Princeton, and I guess he worked there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And Robert Downey Jr. is like, "Hey, Oppenheimer, I'll meet you to Einstein." He's like, "I already know him, asshole."
I knew him for years.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Strauss thinks that he badmouthed him to Einstein,
And it turned the scientific community against Strauss.
right,
This is like a fictional thing in the movie that never happened.
right.
But
And then they show what the conversation
throughout the movie, it's teased and we never see the conversation. And it's all from Robert Downey Jr.'s view. And at the end, after Robert Downey Jr. is denied his commerce position, the guy who played Han Solo in Solo,
That's the moment.
fake Han Solo goes, "Haven't you ever thought they weren't talking about you? It was something more important."
Right.
And then it cuts to the conversation and it's like, "We may have blown up the world."
Yeah.
And that's basically the last line of the
Yeah,
movie.
yeah,
and
yeah.
it shows like an explosion.
ICBMs.
Yes.
Yeah.
It shows explosions, the world's blowing up, and it cuts to black and the movie's over.
That moment when this guy, the guy who played Han Solo, he's been his buddy like the whole time. Robert Downey, he's been working with him, trying to get his job. You know, they've been on the same side. Then this guy's just like, "You're defeated. Fuck you, man."
Well, he's like, "You've been screwing over Oppenheimer this whole time, ruining a good man.
Yeah.
Fuck you." Meanwhile, he wasn't a good man.
Well, you're supposed to.
Like, he never was a good man.
That's how they want. He's the proxy for how the audience is supposed to feel about straws.
Yes.
Because he likes straws, you're kind of with straws, you don't hate him. And then there's
guess what? JFK's on our side.
Yeah. Well, that
Some guy voted against you, JFK.
Maybe you heard of him, bitch.
It's like, oh.
It gets
Oh,
How about Einstein? Do you see what they're doing to you? Maybe you should turn your back on them. He's talking about the country.
Yeah.
Like, look what the country's putting you through, Oppenheimer.
Look,
Maybe you
Look
should.
at these Americans. They're just like Nazis, man.
Turn your back on
Fuck them. I turn my back on the Nazis. You should turn your back on them.
And you're
well,
sitting there
Oppenheimer
like,
says no.
He says no. He's like, "I love the country."
But Oppenheimer in the movie, what they basically are saying is that he put himself through like that trial as penance and punishment
for creating the bomb.
And he had to do that to suffer in society.
Yes, like Christ.
Right.
Dude, they build him like
Yeah.
Christ. And in fact, they say in the movie, and I was surprised you didn't bring this up because I thought this would annoy you. He's the most important man who ever lived.
Yeah.
I was surprised you didn't. When I saw it, I was like, Ant will hate this line.
Well, they didn't say that.
When
Strauss
I
said
didn't
it.
even. I let it pass over me. I didn't think about it. But you're right. That is an egregious line.
Well, Strauss said it because he's so angry at Oppenheimer. He's painting a picture in his head of what Oppenheimer was doing, and he's completely wrong about it. And one of the things is like he knew this is what makes him the most important man ever, in the world. The movie wasn't saying it; it was Strauss being a dick.
Yeah,
that's all it was.
Nolan has said himself, you are supposed to take it like that's the truth. Nolan has said himself that Oppenheimer is the most important man who ever
lived.
Well, he's an idiot.
I will say you can make a case he's the most important man of maybe the last 70 years.
No.
He created a new age for humanity.
Yes.
100%.
He
not
helped
taking anything away from that.
create it.
Other people have done that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
this happens to be the most recent one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, think about things on a long enough timeline. It's like,
yeah. He's on the short list of important human beings to have ever existed.
yeah.
Not
Definitely
taking, not
But like,
taking
how are we
anything
going to say like Jesus Christ
Right.
is like,
Right.
you know, 2,000 years of impact.
Right.
The calendar and time. Time itself is literally based on his life and death.
Right. He makes Napoleon look like a bitch. He's no JFK, I'll say that.
This movie was.
Oh, do they want you to believe that Strauss is part of the deep state that had
Yes.
Yes,
Kennedy killed?
he becomes the face of the deep state.
Okay, yeah.
They slander him so
he
bad.
had Kennedy
Right.
assassinated.
Yes.
Yeah. You know all those CIA ghosts that are out there today fucking ruining America? Those are the conservatives.
It's the Iron Man suits.
This ending.
And just
really
how that you
sucked.
got fucking Joker from Full Metal Jacket running around in there too.
Oh, Matthew Modine. Yeah.
Just being a fucking douche.
The handling of us, like I said, it's his best work. It's not a bad movie by any means, but the messaging behind this film is so bad. The storytelling is actually, I think, not good either. I think the story's good. I think the way they told it was actually bad. I don't like the nonlinear Chris Nolan way of doing this.
He is incapable of telling a story at this point from A to B.
The ending of this movie, the last scene of this movie should have been the bomb scene, and that should have been the end somehow. I don't know how you would have, whether it takes out the BS trial of Strauss.
It takes the piss out of the third act.
Yeah, it hurts it so much. And the first act also kind of hurts because it's like they're portraying such a sympathetic communist community where it's like
I don't even have a problem with that. It's the later part that I have.
But that's what I mean. It leads to this thing where like the communism is
like, yeah, there's young people that are fucking enamored with this, foreign ideology that they don't quite understand. I think
the Soviet Union doesn't exist yet.
In the very beginning.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's not like
even like the Spanish Civil War shit. Like I could see a guy like Oppenheimer being like, well, why the nationalists killing these people? We need to help them. I look at that the same way a guy like Thomas Jefferson would look at the Jacobins and the Reign of Terror.
Yes.
He doesn't understand what's going on the ground there.
Yeah.
He knows that people are being killed.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about trying to stop something.
I just was saying that like a person in America looking at a foreign conflict, is going to have, they're not going to be in touch with what's going on in the ground. I'm comparing, Oppenheimer's love for the Republican forces in the Spanish Civil War to Thomas Jefferson looking at the Jacobins and the French Revolution as a whole.
I don't think Oppenheimer was ever a full-blown Marxist.
I don't think so either.
No, he wasn't.
But he associated with a ton of them.
Where you are who you hang out with at a certain point, right?
Sure.
Like,
that is why he needed to be investigated, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We need to be sure about this guy.
Now, look, a lot of it is a personal vindictive thing from Strauss.
I'm sure that plays into it 100%.
There's no doubt about it at this point, but the simple fact, and like, yeah, the man built the bomb and like, shit still leaked under his watch,
Yeah.
Like,
he did not, after the job was done, like we said before, he didn't deserve the clearance anymore. He was a threat to national security at that point. Especially because
I don't know if he was a threat, but he was definitely a concern.
You just said, like, under his watch, there was a lot of spies.
It should be noted that they didn't do this in the movie. Hoover was illegally tapping his phone without a warrant, and he'd be talking.
Yeah, I'm no fan of Hoover either.
Hoover's a piece of shit.
Yeah,
but he would be talking to his lawyer about like what they're going to say the next day. Hoover would record it, transcribe it, and give it to the Robert Rapp, the lawyer going at Oppenheimer, and he would know what they're going to say. Like it was just a sham thing,
But it's also not like a trial. Like it's a hearing for national security.
Well, there's no approval of guilt.
Right.
Like we said, this is the birth of the national security state.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
That's
the government
huge problem.
is definitely heading down a dark path here.
Yep.
And no one's recovered since.
So you guys don't like the last line of the movie where it's like, we may have set off a chain reaction which ended the world?
No, I said the end of the movie sucks.
So
I didn't say I don't like the last line. I like that line.
I like the
ending of the movie. But the way he ended it sucked.
We
knew that already. We don't need it.
The movie ends with pretty much being like humanity is doomed.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you don't think we have a chance of making it? We're not going to space?
Me personally, I actually am completely optimistic about it. But I don't fault a movie for making that viewpoint, even if I...
No, yeah.
It's a reasonable viewpoint to believe.
I didn't.
Sure.
I don't think it sucks. That was Beaver's word.
No, I said the ending of the movie sucked.
Like, I could see a lot... Like, I'm not emotional that way. Like, if it was to happen, it's like, oh, here's Armageddon. You know? Like...
I don't care about the last line. I don't like... Like, I feel like the real ending of the movie was the bomb scene. That was the ending of the movie for me. I checked out after that.
I think it's
done poorly.
I think it's not the point of the movie isn't the bomb. It's a portrait of the man's life.
I know that.
And so it's like, if you're telling the man's, the complete story of his life, you got to do that. And by the way, they cut out shit that happens after the hearing. The man went on to do incredible work about black holes. That later was proven right. And I've heard people say that he probably should have won a Nobel Prize for the black hole work alone.
Right. Sure.
He was nominated 4 times and lost every time.
Yeah.
Because his name had been dragged through the mud.
Because he's the fucking,
Yeah.
he's also the atom bomb guy.
Right.
Yeah.
He did get one. And they make it like
he won a Nobel Prize? I thought he didn't.
well, he gets no, you're right. He gets the Enrico Fermi Award.
Yeah.
And they make a
I thought he got the Enrico Palazzo Award.
it's Enrico Palazzo.
He was a baseball umpire. He was doing all sorts of wacky moves.
Yeah, and
Saves the day.
and the movie like makes that shitty.
Mhm.
You know that they gave him an award.
Well, it's like
yeah.
everything you're doing is for them.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like your punishment is that you got to live for them.
Well, it's
Right.
communist. It's you don't own your work. They do.
I don't think it's saying
No,
that.
I think
It's-
you're reading into that.
It's
That's what they were
self-martyrdom and
doing.
self-flagellation. That's what it is.
That's what they were doing.
You know,
the whole time.
I don't think the movie is it's not sympathetic to communism. It's fucking just classic Hollywood boomer liberalism. It's like, who's downtrodden? Who are the conservatives going after? The communists. So that's our guys. We're going to support them in this movie. You know, it's not like it's made by hardcore fucking Reds.
Right.
You know, it's
Okay,
made by
sure.
fucking people who are just like, conservatives are always bad. And if they're mad at something, we're going to pump it up.
The movie is
Sure.
mostly apolitical, honestly.
Yeah.
You know, it's
But it's like, here are the victims, the communist people, and here are the oppressors.
you know, it's not even saying the communists are the victims. It's saying Oppenheimer is the victim. That's what they're saying. He's the one victim.
But he's the victim because he's
Yeah.
friends with the commies
Yeah.
who are just like plucky, cool guys.
But he's suffering for everybody.
They just want life and fairness.
Right.
And they're fighting the fascism.
right.
At no point in this movie do they show like the evil side of those people. They do show a lot of the evil side of those, like he's saying, the government.
Every time someone is looking into communism, they are portrayed in the movie as bad.
Yeah.
Every time.
And every time that they're
I don't
portraying
think
those
bad.
people as bad, the communists are portrayed as good.
I don't think bad. I think
The communists will take in your child.
Yeah. Yeah. You can abandon your child and the
The
communists will
communist
raise
could
it
be
for
your
you.
brother who just wants to get married and
Yeah.
sleep in a tent with you.
Yeah. He's just a traveler,
Just a
man.
traveler.
Come on. Fuck you. You don't like JFK?
The communists are just people who just want to start a scientific community together. The communists are just people who want to not drop a bomb on Japan.
Yeah.
The communists are portrayed in this movie as saints.
Yes. Yes.
And to say that they're not is a lie.
but
well said.
it's not the point of the movie. And they also have
It's the undertone.
They also
It's
have
not the
communists
point. It's
being
not the point of
spies.
the movie. It's not the point of the movie.
No, I never said that. It's the
Yeah,
undertone.
It's
though.
the undertone. It's if you are looking for, you know, it's there. It's just there.
Yeah.
It's so predictably there.
Yeah. Yes.
I hate communists more than anybody.
I know.
It's like it's just something where it's like,
But you get enamored with the Nolan stuff.
no, it's not. I'm not even a Nolan fan.
I'm just saying.
I really
like,
haven't liked a movie of his in years since this.
I was saying to him that I think, at least for me, this is kind of the final straw in seeing something that's hyped. For me. Because they hyped up Oppenheimer like, here's the bomb. That was the biggest hype. It's like you're going to watch Nolan set off a bomb equivalent to an atom bomb on film, and it's the lead up to this, and it's that's what it's about. That's how it was marketed and portrayed in every realm. And then when you go to see it, that is such a small part of the movie that don't get me wrong, the movie was good, realistically, but the hype for it didn't match the payoff, like he said before.
But no matter what, no matter how they do it, unless they stretch it out in super slow-mo, it's going to be a short event.
Yeah, but there was sure.
Not even length though. It just was visually not that impressive.
We'll have to
Sure.
disagree.
But you disagree that the height of the film was the bomb? That's the height of the film. That's the high
That's the
point
true
of the
climax.
film.
The true climax.
100%.
I disagree. I think that's the end of the second act as we get into the
Mhm.
third act denouement, and all the characters wrap up their loose ends, and we find out kind of what the movie has really been about this whole time.
Mhm.
And it's why, you know, we're seeing the flaws in Oppenheimer and the good and the bad, and
Mhm.
it's all the portraits of this man's life that was sifted through at this hearing,
Mhm.
which actually happened factually.
Right.
You know?
Sure. I just think they could have did it in a way that you could have the climax.
I'll
be at
call
a good
Nolan. I'll
point,
say
you know?
Steve Badaglack can direct better than you.
I just feel like the climax shouldn't be in the middle of a movie.
He's got a white coat.
Yeah. He's a scientist. You
Come
gotta
on.
trust him.
Get him gave me this thing. I think I have to. I'll look into it. I'm gonna.
He's gonna look
Yeah.
into it. Now he has the tools.
All right. So, what do you rate this?
I'm going to rate this a 6 out of 10.
It's pretty low. All right.
I was
6 out of 10.
kind
And
of
I'm
around
not doing that politically. And like I said, my own personal
Well, you said you thought it was a bore.
I have personal biases that made me not have as much fun with the film as I could have. But I'm not basing that number on that. I am basing it on the fact that it is a bore fest.
No points for accuracy?
For tons of points for accuracy. It's incredibly accurate.
Oh yeah.
But it is a slog to get through for large portions of this film.
Okay.
I gave it a 6.5. Yeah. I feel like I wanted this to be like an 8 or a 9 movie. It's not. It's just not.
Now, did it
The
change?
acting's good.
Did it change for you seeing it the second time? Was it higher and then it got lower?
Because
you seemed to be way more positive about it when we saw it the first time.
the first time I was, I felt very much the same way about the third act. I enjoyed the 70mm more.
You seem to like the explosion more the
I
first
like
time.
because it looks better.
Yeah.
It feels better. The sound is good. But watching it as just a movie without the bells and the whistles.
Well, you're watching it how it was actually
felt-
filmed.
Right. But
We watched a crop version.
it's,
like
it fell
everyone's
short.
head is cut off
Yeah.
at like the forehead.
It fell short.
in 35.
It did. The second time around, I've realized a lot more of the problems. And I was like, oof, this has got issues, So
All right, we're gonna have a very big discrepancy here.
biggest one on yet.
I don't know if it's the biggest one, but it's gonna be one of the biggest. I'm gonna go 9.5.
You're insane.
It's Nolan.
You're far
Wild.
too generous.
That's wild.
It's
You're far too
Nolan's
generous.
best movie. It's a masterpiece. It's phenomenally acted throughout, from top to bottom.
No doubt about
Yes.
that. No doubt about
It's
that.
Nolan's most human portrait of a person.
Sure.
It's filmed well. It's shot well. I love the score. I love, maybe it's because I like courtroom dramas and shit like that.
Yeah.
You
have to.
Yeah. If you
You
love
have to
courtroom
like
dramas,
that.
you're gonna love
Yeah.
this.
It really just tickled all my things that I wanted. I'm not even a Nolan fan. I haven't liked a movie he's put out maybe since Inception.
Did you like Interstellar?
No, I hated it.
I liked Interstellar.
I hated Interstellar. I didn't like Dunkirk.
I like Interstellar more than
I like
I
Dunkirk
didn't really
a lot.
like Tenet.
Tenet wasn't that good. Dunkirk was okay.
I think this is his masterpiece. So
Okay.
We're
We're going to have to agree to disagree.
That's
Yeah.
discrepancy. Yeah.
So
that's okay.
I say, guys, go see it. Give it a chance.
Oh, I think everyone should, like, if you're at all interested in this topic, go see it and be your own judge, because
Oh yeah, of course.
It's worth
Yeah.
watching.
Yeah,
At least-
it's 100% worth watching. And I'll say this for the movie, made me think.
Well, what
Sure.
about this?
100% made me think.
It's also
Sure.
this. It's also when you buy a ticket to something like this, you're telling Hollywood to make more things like this.
Everyone go see this movie right now. Get the fuck off your ass and get in the theater.
All right. So for
Don't see Barbie.
Yeah, please don't see Barbie.
Jesus Christ.
for newcomers, thank you all for listening. If you stuck around, now we're going to kind of talk about some inside baseball stuff. So if this is your first episode, you'll hear what we kind of been up to real quick. So we had our first kind of meet and greet hangout.
I guess we did, yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Big thank you to everyone who showed up,
Yes.
who were mostly members of my family.
Yeah.
Some friends.
We had some friends show up,
Some acquaintances from the
some
show.
listeners of the show.
Some listeners.
Yes.
It was good. It was a good time.
Traveled pretty far.
It was very cool meeting
Yeah.
some of those guys last
Yeah,
night.
Yeah, right?
Very, very cool, very nice guys. And I like talking to them.
Good guys, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
Dennis and PJ.
Yes.
Thanks
Wonderful
for coming
people.
out, guys.
And Jimmy the hair guy, if he counts as a fan. I don't know.
Chuck was there too.
Chuck
He's
came.
kind of in the show. He was on the show.
Get him
Yeah.
was with us.
Get him,
Get him
came.
was with us.
Yeah.
Big thanks to everybody who turned out. It was fun.
Oh yeah.
Tons of
Just,
fun.
just getting
Had a great
everybody
time.
together to go see something like this, making
Yeah.
an event of it was
Had a
cool
few
thing.
drinks.
Yeah.
Chilled.
What'd you think of Alamo? Your first time,
Oh, that place is amazing.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah. What a great theater.
It's like the best place to see a movie
Yeah.
in Staten Island.
And I'm not even like one of these guys that gets food and shit at the.
Did you get food?
I ordered some French fries. The first time I've ever done
Okay.
that, and was a nice experience.
It's the first time.
I like that you can just have a beer in the movie theater now.
Yeah.
Like my whole life that wasn't a thing, and now it is.
Yeah, now you
It's
could
good
drink
times.
and,
Yeah.
have a drink and be merry.
Yes.
It was a good time.
But thanks to everybody who came out for that.
Yep.
So that's it, guys. What should everybody do?
Do we have an email?
While we're doing a pick.
Oh, okay. Like, subscribe, follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, on SoundCloud, on Apple Podcast Music. Follow us everywhere.
Ring
Podcasts
the bell.
are available. Ring that bell
It's
because
very-
you won't get notified.
It's very important.
And
that
we
you
are
ring the
still
bell.
here.
The bell, you got to ring it because
We shall remain.
we get buried by the algorithm. Big History keeps us down. Oh, the podcast awards.
Oh yeah, I don't know anything about
We're
this.
nominated for Best History Podcast
Are
by
we?
the Podcast Awards.
Big history can't keep us
By the
down.
time this comes out, will that be still going?
The voting ends, I believe, July 31st. So go to
Rock the vote.
Go to podcastawards.com, select Reviewing History for Best History Podcast. Also, feel free to vote for Tell 'em Steve Dave in their categories.
Yeah, they're for comedy,
People's
right?
Choice and comedy.
Yeah.
Yes.
But please, please, please vote for Reviewing History for Best History
Yeah,
Podcast.
Give it,
Yes.
give it a nice little vote.
All right, time for the wrap up. Thank you, everybody, for listening and or watching. Thank you to Tell 'em Steve Dave letting us record down in their studio. Come on down, visit them in Hazlitt. Visit Get 'em, Brywalt Q. Thank them very much. Steve with his glass.
His eye looked all big.
Yeah. My wife said I needed one of those. I didn't
Oh,
understand.
it actually hurts.
Thank you guys for listening and or watching. Like, subscribe, all the places.
You look like you're gonna pilot a Jem'Hadar ship.
He looks like a Saiyan.
Yeah.
He's gonna tell you your power level.
I think this has really good magnification.
Follow us everywhere. Follow me personally on all social media, Reviewing History, Our View History Pod on Twitter. Follow me on Letterboxd. I rank and review every single movie I watch. We have a bunch of links in the show notes. Please click them, follow. Thank you,
Right,
guys.
Brian.
Thanks for joining us. We will see you next time with Alexander.
Yep.
Bye.